In the small town of Ebelstein, there was a lying old geezer. That's what the people in the slums called this aging man anyway. He could use one-star magic, but his bragging was so outrageous that he went around calling himself a great mage. He had a nasty temper too, to the point where he would genuinely lose it at the little kids who tried to prank him. And he learned magic from this crazy old geezer. He doesn't have any grand reason for doing such a thing. The old man simply needed followers, and he needed knowledge. Summer turned to winter, and winter turned to spring, and eventually, the boy began to grasp the flow of mana. The geezer was impressed, but the boy did not stop there and used magic to craft an arrow that went flying into the bark of a nearby tree. That's how he spent a year at the old man's side, while doing every kind of odd job for him, and became a first-star mage. That night, the old man notes that he heard that past the northern wall of Ebelstein, some noble brats reached 3 stars even before their coming of age. That's a realm a lowborn like him could spend his entire life polishing and still barely reach, so he shouldn't get conceited. With skills like his, the entire world will collapse on his head as he reaches the wall of the 2 stars. This old man usually went on long rants about bloodlines, about how magic is just bloodline, and that no matter how much he struggles, it's all futile. He kept drilling this into his head again and again. Perhaps it was a manifestation of his longing for everything he never managed to get, but that night felt unusually long, like he wanted to leave something to the world, a memento of sorts. And sure enough, the next day when he returned to their camping spot, the old man was dead. His entire body was covered in bruises. He'd been badly beaten, probably picked a fight he couldn't win and gotten in this state, a way of leaving this world perhaps. He learned later though, that the old man was beaten by none other than the guards. They said he got caught trying to steal a 2-star spellbook from a warehouse. Nobody could understand why an old man with no ambition would do such a thing, but the boy knew it was for him, and he always preached about bloodlines. But unfortunately for him, he can't possibly have noble blood, because he's not from this world at all, given the system that popped up in his face and asked his primary school of magic. 4 entire years passed just like that, and he met Katya Flameheart, the former mistress of the now fallen Flameheart house, a viscounty. Born a noble, she was a 3-star mage, and many mercenary groups sought her out for this. While staying in Ebelstein, she took contracts through the Belden Mercenary Corps, and she taught those who joined the Corps young, and went around using 1-star magic to survive. That's how he learned a great deal from a 3-star, and one day, at the Belden's Tier Tavern, she told him that it's only natural for a mage to develop a desire to rise even higher, and as he knows, he has that kind of talent. With that said, excessive greed will only slow his progress. The boy, Derek, said he would keep that in mind, and so they continued their lesson. Derek closed his eyes and began feeling his mana, calmly sensing where it's generated, what kind of flow it has, and thought of it as using mana to bring the image he's imagining to reality. As he does that, Katya thinks that he definitely has a considerable amount of innate mana, and maybe it's because he's got a lot of field experience, but his mana control is pretty stable too. Suddenly, Derek opens his eyes, and something thunders throughout the entire tavern, causing the mercenaries to get up and immediately check if there's been an attack or something. As Derek recovers, Katya grabs his hand and tells him not say anything, and just follow. As the mercenaries wonder what that was, as it definitely sounded like an explosion, surely there must have been an attack nearby. Katya takes Derek to an alley, where he asks what is going on. She tells him to listen carefully to her next words. As he knows, nobles are sensitive about their privileges, and magic is the greatest privilege among them. People treat innate strength as some sort of blessing, but that only applies to nobles. Among commoners, very rarely does someone reach 3 stars, but usually those are commoners who devoted their entire lives to the art of magic, and what he just used was a 2-star delusion-type spell called Auditory Hallucination. That's how, at the age of 14, he became 2-star. After that, Katya continued traveling with him, and passed down various spells, and sometimes she even taught him about the high society she used to be in when she was a noble. A year passed just like that, and then Katya left. He heard that the country of Elvester appointed her as a private tutor. House Elvester was the kind of family that even the capital's Grand Duke had to respect, because they had Count Elvester on their side. For Katya, it was an offer that she could just not refuse. Becoming the magic teacher of a noble of that level was an enormous blessing for anyone. Before leaving though, she left him a 2-star spellbook as a gift, and using his known magic, he studied that book for an entire year, and mastered 2 more 2-star spells at just 16, and had no intention of stopping there. At that same tavern, the bartender tells Derek that they finally got a proper request for once. It is apparently a request from House Duplain, the Grand Douche. Does he understand now why he's excited? Derek asked if it was that Duplain, but why would a place like that hire them? The bartender told him that's not what mattered right now. It's Duplain, the house that uses gold like people use water. And if they open a path with Duplain through this job, they can build better connections too. Derek dusts himself and asks what he wants them to do. The bartender tells him it's nothing crazy. They want them to subdue a few monsters on the outskirts of the Grand Duke's territory, with Derek surprised that this is it. Something feels off. A family as big as Duplain asking a mere mercenary corps to clear out beasts? He refuses to go. He should go find someone else. The bartender tells him to wait, but Derek is bent on not accepting. His only rule is not to take shady jobs. The bartender tells him that if he could get someone else, he would do it himself. But they say they needed a mage, and people like him are scarce among mercenaries. He's the only one who can do it, and that's why he called him. Derek is even more suspicious. Why do they need a mage just for a monster subjugation? Regardless, he doesn't want to get tangled in this mess. Before he leaves, the bartender throws 1 gold coin at him. This isn't even the fee, but an advanced payment. Derek knows he can't refuse now. He wants to keep his job after all. So he meets with the clients, and the bartender tells him to pay his respects to them. The noble older man refused. A child who hadn't even had a coming-of-age ceremony? He heard he earned a merit during the Dawn War, so he had some expectations, but he couldn't believe he was sending a child to this job. The bartender told him that this kid is the real deal, and the best mage he knows. The noble refused and turned to leave, as this is a task that cannot be entrusted to a child. Before he could walk out, though, his wife whispered something to him, looking at their daughter as she did, and so the man relented, noting that they could talk. The next day, somewhere in the Grand Duchy of Duplain, Derek began his job, kicking away a goblin before decapitating another. One of them rushed behind him, but Derek dodged with precision and zapped the goblin to death. With this, he has finished the job, and the noble seems rather displeased that he took them down so quickly, but their daughter seems to think otherwise. That night at the tavern, one of the mercenaries couldn't believe that Derek had become a dog of the nobles. The bartender tells Pauline to get down from the table. There are customers around too. She doesn't care. No matter how lowly commoners like them are, they must not become dogs for the nobles. The bartender guessed that Derek didn't tell her how much they were paying, but she didn't care. No price is worth his pride. The bartender pointed out one, which she thought was 1 silver, but it's actually 1 gold. Pauline immediately begs to be taken on the job too, but the bartender tells her to shut it. She said that pride can't be bought after all. After she tires herself, the bartender asks Derek how his request went. He explains that it was nothing special. He just killed a few goblins, and that was that. The bartender knows their first impression was trash, but they looked like they had money, right? Derek confirms as such, but also states that all 3 of them were lying. The noble dispatch officer said he was looking for exactly 3 things: youth, stamina, and socializing ability. But that person had none of the 3. And the woman who called herself a scullery maid, her hands were far too clean for someone doing such rough work. That trainee inspector too. It's all too strange. The bartender looks at him sternly and tells him that they are just mercenaries. They don't need to dig too deeply into their clients. They just do the job and take the money. Derek knows that Jaden is right. This place is the wild, and in the wild, the only thing that matters is living to the next day and nothing else. The next day arrives, and Derek takes care of most of the goblins. With this, they won't be showing up for a while. The officer noble congratulates him for his good work, and Jaden wants to discuss how they will handle payment. He immediately gets 2 gold coins and scruffs Derek's hair while noting that they are rich now, but Derek tells him to put that down and talk. The officer clears his throat and says that he admires Derek's skills. He would like to entrust him with a new request, if that would be acceptable. For this request, the Grand Duchy will pay upwards of 15 gold coins. So will he do it? Derek agrees, and so, they are both taken in a carriage to the Duplain residence. Jaden notes that this is the first time he has seen something like this. It's quite an impressive building. Before they enter, the officer thinks he should formally introduce himself, but Jaden tells him that's not needed. They already met once or twice, and formalities aren't needed. Even so, the man introduces himself as Delon, the Grand Steward serving the Grand Duke Duplain, and he apologizes for having concealed his status, but it was needed for the task. Jaden wonders what they are supposed to do now, and the older woman introduces herself as Katerina, the Grand Duke's head maid. Jaden bows slightly, surprised that they are both people of such high standing, and introduces himself as well, as captain of the Beldun Mercenary Corps, and a bartender on the side. Derek knew something was suspicious. He more or less expected this, but their ranks are pretty high. Eventually, the girl from before gets out of the carriage too. She removes her cloak and lets down her hair, introducing herself as Isaline Eleanor Duplain. She wants to appoint him as the magic tutor for her younger sister Yahello. Derek is surprised. Him? A magic tutor for a noble lady? At the same time as this happens, one of the Duplain sons barges through the doors of his father's study, telling him and Valerian, his brother, to look at this. His father asks Reg what he is doing, and he should conduct himself with dignity. Reg screams out, noting that the one who needs to act with dignity isn't him, but Yahello. She has gone too far, and now she's even laying hands on the people he hired for her. What does that say about him? Valerian tells him to lower his voice. He and his father were in the middle of a conversation. Reg refuses, as more than 10 servants quit last month, Not to mention the hundreds of objects she smashes whenever she feels like it. How long are they going to keep turning a blind eye to that thug? Valerian gets up and screams at him, noting that this is enough, so he should leave. Reg refuses once again. Even if Diella is a good-for-nothing brat, don't they still have Isoline? He thinks it's time to let Diella go. His father puts his glasses down and says that's not for him to decide, but Reg refuses to let this go. He had the Grand Steward look into a monastery. They say the facilities are good, plenty of children of nobles come and go, so instead of living while being treated like a burden, would it not be better for Diella to devote herself to God's will? As he continues speaking, his father suddenly grabs his head and smashes it roughly into the table. He believes he made himself clear. This is not his decision to make, and that's final. Reg dares not look his father in the eye, but tells him that when that time comes, and it will come, he will have to decide. As Derek walks around the halls with Isoline, who asks if he's ever heard about her younger sister, Diella, Derek notes he's seen her in the family registry, but that's it. Isoline expected as such. She's probably not well known to the public. As they walk, they meet up with Reg and Valerian, who, upon seeing Isoline, note that it's been a while and ask how Ebelstein is treating her. She explains that thanks to him, she's been living comfortably there. He understands, but since Craig is a bit hurt, they will catch up later. Derek immediately sizes them up, seeing their stern faces, and the maid who's crying. They eventually arrive at the father's study, who is also relieved to hear that his daughter is doing well. Isoline explains that this is the magic tutor she brought from Ebelstein. He said he'd take charge of Diella. The father understands, and seeing him uninterested, Isoline notes that he's busy, so they will take their leave. Before they do that though, the father says he wants to have a chat with Derek. Just him. As he continues writing, he notes that he's quite young, 16. Derek confirms as much, and the father asks if he can handle magic to some extent. Derek lies and says he can use a bit of one-star magic, making the father laugh a bit, as he has no reason to lie in front of him. Humility doesn't always come off as a virtue. Derek looks at him, the Grand Duke of Duplain. He guesses humility won't work on a 5-star mage. He apologizes for coming off as disrespectful, but Duplain says it's fine. He knows why he carries himself this way. Being too talented can end up doing more harm than good. Judging by his age and attire, he doesn't look like someone suited to be a magic tutor. Derek admits that he is a mercenary, but Duplain notes that Isoline chose him, so he won't be prying any further, and he will grant him entry to the annex of the residence where Diella lives. He may go now. A maid will guide him there. Before leaving, Derek wants to ask one thing, which Duplain allows. He is a mercenary. If he takes a commission, it is his duty to see it through, so that Diella may learn magic and enter high society as a proper maid. Isoline commissioned him. Duplain asks why he's stating the obvious, but it's because Derek has an earnest request to make of him, which the Duke listens to. Inside Diella's room, she throws a plate at one of the maids, who apologizes again and again, but Diella asks if her apologizing will change anything, given her status. She should get out of her sight right this second, and if she shows herself one more time, that plate will end up in her face. As Jaden has some tea with Isoline, he asks why she chose Derek. Magic tutors should have been lined up in front of them. Besides, a commoner will have difficulty working as a noble's magic tutor. Isoline explains that she tried almost every famous magic master on the entire continent. In the end, they all gave up, so she opted for those who can use magic, but are under desperate circumstances. Although Derek has the background of a mercenary, he seemed to know a bit about how Hobyo nobles conduct themselves and their culture. Jaden explains that his master was a fallen noble who used to be successful. He probably learned a lot of that from her. Isoline figured he was refined and kind despite being a mercenary. She thought that if it was him, he might be able to rein in Diella and lead her. Jaden tells her that she needs to learn how to see through people more, as Derek is a mage who grew up on the streets, and he worked as a mercenary before he even came of age. Does she really think someone from the streets can survive on nothing but refinement and kindness? For a child like that to survive, he needs more than that. He knocks on Diella's door, and upon not getting an answer, simply opens it and introduces himself. Diella tells him to come closer, and as he does, with a wicked smile, she throws a bunch of diary water in his face. How horrible. She thought that some sewer rat had come in. He's probably the mercenary the Grand Steward mentioned, or perhaps not. Looking at him, he does seem like a sewer rat. She climbs the chair and pours the rest of the dirty water on him, which she guesses reminds him of his hometown, right? Being drenched in gutter water like this? She eventually runs out of water, and notes that it's a shame she didn't give him a proper bath. But Derek doesn't react at all, making her angry, and she kicks him down. She removes her shoe, as he stinks and sits down, telling him to know his place. Someone like him from the dirty streets is not worthy of teaching her. As he looks out the window, Duplain thinks about what he discussed with Derek, who said that the fact he's here means Diella's problem cannot be resolved with ease. He wanted to ask him, who loves Diella more than anything, how much authority he's willing to grant him when it comes to teaching her. Well, he gave him enough authority to slap her across the face, which naturally comes as a shock to Diella. but Derek tells her to get up, as he's not done quite yet. 3 years ago, as Derek was taking a carriage with Katya, he asked what she would do if she had to teach a stubborn student who did not appreciate kindness. She said that she would try to understand them, embrace them, and take them in. Derek believed that was a bit idealistic, but Katya told him the essence of teaching is to lead a student in a better direction. If he can't communicate through understanding and acceptance, then they will have a different starting point, and that is fear. Derek gives his first order to Diella, to treat others with consideration and respect, and tells her to get up again. She does so, but immediately slaps him, asking how he dares to hit her. Derek does so again, and notes that he won't say the same thing twice. When she deals with others, she will do so with consideration and respect. Seeing this, Diella screams out for the Grand Steward, telling him that this lowborn dared to put his hands on her. He immediately rushes in and gets between them, asking what he's doing right now. How dare he lay a hand on a noble? When the Grand Duke finds out, he's cooked. To shut him up, Derek pulls out a scroll and explains that His Grace granted him full authority over all of her education, and to employ whichever method he may choose. The steward reads it, and cannot deny the validity of the document. That night, upon hearing what happened, Valerian rushes through the hall and barges in Derek's room where he's reading. He immediately grabs Derek and asks how he dares to hit Diella, but Reg stops him and tells him to just talk. Derek explains that his actions were permitted by the Duke. He doesn't need to answer to them. Reg tells him to calm down again. He is a guest Iseline brought. If they act like this, in what position will they put her? And their father allowed it too. Valerian calms down and tells Derek to come with him, and also tells Reg not to interfere and go attend to his own stuff. Reg pats Derek on the shoulder and notes that Diella does need a beating before she comes to her senses, so he shouldn't worry. Even Valerian won't go too far. He nods and goes with him, Reg wondering why he's even protecting her so adamantly. Valerian leads Derek to the room, which used to be Diella's when she stayed in the main house. It's been left in this state ever since. She used to love drawing. Every time she asked him to look at her drawings, her face would turn red, but she never finished a drawing. Most of the time, she would leave a blank space and only draw the parts that she liked. He also apologizes for becoming so emotional. Derek says it's fine, but why did he bring him to this room? Valerian just wanted to show him that Diella wasn't a child who deserved to be despised or beaten, but at some point, she started obsessing over bloodline, and in the end, she was driven out of the main house and locked away in the annex. He can't even guess what turned her into that. They have to stop her from being sent to the monastery. If she learns even 1-star magic, he will be able to persuade father somehow. He is begging him to please save Diella, as he might be just her last chance. Derek tells him to wait. She did not give up completely on magic, judging by all the notes in the margins of these books. And those books next to him are all theory books from the School of Regulations, right? Valerian confirms as much because nobles learn from the School of Regulations. Looking at all this stuff, Derek has decided that he will give it an earnest try. As Diella sleeps peacefully in her bed, Derek suddenly pours a bucket of water on her, asking if she's seriously sleeping. She wakes up and asks if he's out of his mind, but Derek just grabs her hand and tells her that there's somewhere they need to go. She screams again, asking how he dares to touch her, and keeps screaming as he drags her away from the house and near the forest, where he drops her on the ground. She asks what he thinks this will change. He should wake up from his dream. Who the hell is he to teach her? Derek is surprised. She doesn't even listen, but does she want to know something? Honestly, he never had any intention of teaching her magic. He just enjoys beating stuck-up nobles. Diella asks what he just said, but Derek hopes she will agree. There's no reason for someone from the bottom to like nobles. This tutor nonsense was all a big excuse to beat up an arrogant, high and mighty noble like her. As he pulls out his blade, he asks if she knows how beautiful nobles who haven't known true suffering are. Delia asks if he thinks he will be safe after doing something like this, but Derek doesn't see why not. She was going to be shoved into a monastery soon anyway. Who would believe anything she said? And if something big happens, he can just apologize with his life. A commoner's life is worth that much at least. Or he could run away. They would probably forget about all this soon enough anyway. He'd be doing Duplan a favor actually, getting rid of his biggest headache. Diella feels that she's going to die. If she gets caught, she will die. She begins running away. If she cuts across the grassland toward the residence, she will be caught. So she has to shake him off in the forest, which she should know better than him, and then she will go back to the residence. Suddenly, she sees something glowing behind her, as Derek has formed a gigantic fireball. But that's 2-star magic. How does he know to use it? Derek smiles, and his fireball almost overwhelms Delia, exploding right next to her. He apologizes, as he will make sure not miss next time. Diella continues running through the forest, but eventually trips on a root, falling directly on her hands. At that moment, a magic arrow flies towards her face, and she barely has a few seconds to dodge. Derek praises her for her quickness. It's hard to believe that's the speed of someone who was cooped up all this time. Diella looks back at him and continues running away, but he doesn't want to give up. She wonders how long she has to keep running. Can she even get away at this point? As she looks back, she sees him doing something, but he's staying still, so she may have enough time to get away. Derek observes that this forest is the one he saw in the paintings. It must be where she's been running around since childhood. Without even realizing it, she felt the mana in the vast wilds and transferred it into the canvas. This is definitely that. Suddenly, Yahello comes from behind, screaming as she tries to hit him with a rock, but he simply slashes it out of her hands. He admits that her spirit is adequate. Knowing it would be hard to shake him off, she decided to strike, which couldn't have been an easy decision to make. Unfortunately, it seems that she doesn't have the strength left to run anymore, as expected. Does she have any last words? Yahello smiles. Does he really think she's going to apologize or something? Unlike lowborns, she doesn't grovel, so he should end her already. Derek is curious though. Just why is she so obsessed with bloodline? Yahello asks what she would have left if they had taken away this great bloodline from her. The answer is magic. That's always been the case. But doesn't he think that she tried? No matter how much she forces, no matter how hard she tries, it never works. Magic or painting, if she gets weeded out of everything she lies, if she falls behind, then what does she have left? Without this blood coursing through her veins, who is she? Derek says nothing and infuses his blade with mana. Having heard enough of her ramblings, this is goodbye. He swings his sword down, but suddenly it hits something else. Yahello, who was expecting to be hit, opens her eyes and sees that she has made an icy wall around her. Is this magic? Derek sheathes his blade and congratulates her, and also apologizes for his rudeness. It may not be something one could truly call magic, as it's just a manifestation of mana, but she still did it. Overwhelmed by emotion, she begins to cry out, and Derek lets her get her emotions out. After that, as he bandages her, he explains that she belongs to the School of the Wild. He heard most nobles learn the School of Regulations, but at its core, every school is essentially the same. However, it differs quite a lot in the process of understanding and mastering it. She's from the School of the Wild, so trying to learn magic through conventional means was bound to cause problems. She wasn't just trying to fit clothes that wouldn't fit. She was trying to force herself to do something impossible for her body. Yahello asks how he knows she's from the School of the Wild, and Derek explains he saw the drawings she made and could feel the mana drifting through nature, which she put into canvas. Mages born with the temperament of the School of the Wild usually sense mana in nature when young. After he is done bandaging her, he notes that she should be able to walk, and also states that even if she succeeds in manifesting mana, she still has a long way to go, and starting tomorrow, he will teach her how to manifest it naturally. As he turns around to lead her out of the forest, she thanks him, but he doesn't really care and tells her that they should go. As they go back, they talk about her paintings, and as morning comes, the first thing Yahello tries is to use her magic again, but it fizzles out, proving that it is pretty hard. As she comes out of her room, a maid carrying some water gets scared, and a bit of the water ends up on Yahello's dress. The maid immediately bows down and begs to be forgiven, but Yahello tells her to just watch where she's going and leaves. The maid is confused. Is she not going to hit her? She's just leaving. The other maids come to her aid and are just as surprised, making them wonder what happened when she went out last night. Suddenly, Derek gets woken up by a bunch of knocking, as Yahello has come to his room, wanting to be taught how to handle the mana she manifested. She tried, but it's not working. The butler is shocked that she manifested mana, but Derek closes the door in front of her and tells her to come back later. She immediately becomes annoyed and pounds on his door, demanding to be let in, but Derek just climbs back into bed and sleeps, as this too is part of her training. That day, the maids begin talking, noting that Yahello didn't break a single plate today, and she's not even hitting the maids as she used to. Rumor has it that she actually manifested magic. Reg, hearing this as he's passing by, asks if what they said is true. Along with Valerian, he reports this news to their father, and even the head butler confirmed it. He is relieved to hear it, but Reg tells them not to jump to conclusions about it just because she manifested magic. Valerian notes that he should be praising her, instead of still being after her, but Reg has not forgotten what she has done up until now. As a result, as small as this will not brush aside her sending to the convent. Their father shuts up, keeping his thoughts to himself as he thinks. As Derek comes to her room, he sees her sulking, but she's not sulking. She's angry. Derek tells her that even if she acts spitefully, nothing will change. Yahello tells him she's not spiteful, she's angry. Derek tells her that even if she pouts, they must follow the order first. Yahello faces him and says she's just angry, but seeing his face and remembering what happened, she decides to let it go for now. Derek sits down and explains that just because she manifested magic does not mean she can go around using it, or it will backfire. He's saying this because he's been through that. Rest is just as important as learning. She rested enough, so now it's time to study. Yahello expected him to say that. Here comes the stuffy magic teacher who just sits in a chair all day. Derek asks if he should teach her in a different way, as he has many ways of doing so. Yahello sits down and relents, not wanting a repeat of last night. Derek is pleased, and explains that today they will practice magic manifestation. Once she can freely use this, she will be able to learn one-star magic before long. This School of the Wild does not possess a rigid system, so it's ideal for self-study. It pursues far more freedom than any school. If he's honest, this school actually suits her quite well. She asks what he means, so Derek tells her that it's just as it sounds. Her free-spirited nature has good compatibility with this school, and on top of that, she was born with Duplain blood, which is overflowing with talent. Diella asks if he's saying she's talented, and Derek confirms as much. She can conjure an ice wall the instant she manifests. Then she's certainly talented. Diella wonders if she's some kind of genius, and as they bicker on the details, Reg watches from afar, clearly annoyed by this development. The next day, Diella comes barging into his room, noting that she can do magic manifestation, but not get the right direction. The next day, she imbues it with cold, but something is off. The next day, she says that she can feel magic, but it's a weird sensation. The next day, Diella finds him far away, which she dislikes as she told him to stay in the annex. Does he think father led him those spellbooks to slack off? Derek confirms they are just for that, and she grabs him, noting that she succeeded at letting the magic flow as he said. The next day, Valerian calls for Derek, as he was hoping they would have a chat. He asks how Diella has been doing lately, and Derek confirms that progress has been made, but learning one-star magic will likely take a lot more time. Valerian understands and explains that his mother, who went to a social gathering, will probably return sometime next week. He will warn him that the woman is not someone he can take lightly. The people in this estate are fine, but nobles, by their nature, do not like commoners holding such high positions. Derek will keep it in mind, but is that why he called him? Valerian says that's not everything, and gets up. He's the next head of this house, and that means that he has a position where he has to embrace and include all the members of the house. To do that, he must be sincere with all of them. But that's difficult, because a person's heart can be profound. It would be nice if everyone's thoughts and values were the same, but that is just not reality. Derek asks what he's trying to say, and too long didn't read. Valerian is sad that Diella won't play with him, making Derek completely stone-faced. Valerian explains that he still remembers how she used to welcome him with a smile when they were little. Where would one find another angel in the world like her? So isn't there some kind of way to win her favor? Derek wonders why he's being asked that, but Valerian notes that she follows him around everywhere, probably even now. He should also look at this too. He learned how to make dolls from the maids. Doesn't it look exactly like her? Can he feel the love of a big brother? Derek asks if he's trying to put a curse on someone, making Valerian cry even more. Sure enough, a few days later, Valerian's mother appears, noting that she heard a lot about him, that they finally found a capable teacher. She introduces herself as Muriella Dybel Duplain. If it wouldn't be an inconvenience, she would like to send him a generous gift. Derek immediately tells her that he's not affiliated with any house, meaning that he's a commoner, completely shocking Muriella. 1 week earlier, as Aiseline left, she talked with Derek, glad that they brought him to the residence. She would have liked to stay by Diella's side too, since she's her older sister, but she has a lot to take care of back in Ebelstein. Derek understood, and Jaden notes that he should be more lively when answering nobles. But anyway, he should wrap things up here quickly and get back, or Pauline will get mad if she finds out. As the carriage rode out, Aiseline completely forgot that her mother would return next week, and she forgot to give him a heads up. Jaden asks if that's really something worthy of a heads up, and Aiseline can't tell him, but she's a little traditional. She immediately bursts through Duplain's study and demands to know how he dares to put a commoner as a teacher. He tells her to stop screaming, as he hasn't gone deaf just yet, but he just might now. She believes that's not the problem. This is Diella they are talking about, their beloved youngest. Duplain sighs, takes his glasses off, and explains that he doesn't like it either, but every single teacher with a good bloodline eventually gave up on her. Muriella doesn't care. How could he take in some man who is a mercenary of all things? Duplain explains that finding a magic teacher is not easy, and Derek was recommended by Aiseline herself. Muriella believes there has to be a standard. They have his younger brother, Flam, right? He said he was busy last time, but it's different now. Diella's just manifested magic, so if he comes and teaches her, Duplain interrupts her. Does she expect him to pull the person managing the territory and turn him into a teacher? Does she think running Ebelstein is easy work? Muriella asks about the Ebelstein social circle. Does he think the social circle is haphazard? It's a war zone, actually. Socially, a teacher matters more than anything. If word gets out that a commoner with no family name is teaching her, she will be a laughingstock. Suddenly, Valerian arrives too and tells her to calm down. Surely she didn't come here just to fight father, right? Muriella tells him to step aside. This is not something she can let slide. Suddenly, Reg speaks, noting that the question is whether the commoner mage has the capabilities of being her teacher, right? A commoner becoming a noble's teacher is not normal. Not at all. Naturally, if that commoner truly has the qualifications, then it will probably not be a major problem. That is why he wants to test the qualities of this man. If he defeats him in a magic spar, Duplain shuts him up. He's the real deal as a mage. Reg knows he's underestimating him with that look, and asks about testing Diella. If Derek is as excellent a teacher as he thinks, the Diella, who received his instruction, must have good results too. He will personally spar with her, and verify the results. Duplan says nothing, having tired of these conversations already. But as Reg leaves, Valerian follows, demanding to know what the hell he is thinking. Reg turns to him and asks if he truly believes Diella just had a complete change of heart out of nowhere, or has she forgotten who she is? Valerian doesn't care. She's his sister, his blood. They need to hold her close and protect her. Reg laughs. That blood is what's bringing their house down, as if everything she's done until now isn't bad enough. If she debuts in high society like this, it will spell the end. Valerian asks if this is truly how he feels, but Reg walks away. She was the first one who crossed the line. The best thing for her is to be shut away in that annex. He seems determined not to let her prosper. Soon, Diella barges into Derek's room, who asks what it is so early in the morning. So Diella throws a scroll on his book and notes that if she loses this spar, he's fired. Derek heard of it already. Reg is a 1-star mage, and a seasoned one at that, so it will probably be difficult to win. Diella asks if this is all he has to say. Derek explains that he's a mercenary. He does the job he's hired to do, and he takes the pay that comes with it, and he's already been paid more than enough. Diella asks if he really means that, and 1 week later, everyone, including Duplan, gathers at the family arena. Derek bows down to them, allowing Duplan to see that he's not nervous at all. Is he that confident? If he has this kind of nerve in this kind of situation, perhaps he is not someone they should cut loose yet. As Reg walks on the stage, he thinks this is not a simple spar. He will use this to break Diella completely and make sure she regrets what she has done all her life. Diella does the same, but seems not bear any kind of emotion. When she came to Derek with this news, he told her that her magic growth had already gotten on track. She probably noticed too. She cannot use 1-star magic right away, but it won't take long. That's because of her blood. Diella asks why he's suddenly saying that, but Derek has stated before, the School of the Wild is a school that is more focused, no self-study. She still asked why he was saying this now, but Derek did not answer. Diella relented. She knew she wasn't the greatest student, but even so, she wants to keep learning magic from him. She doesn't want anyone else. Derek remained silent for a moment and told her in advance, he doesn't know the etiquette or rules for nobles during magic spars. He's never done one, but he can teach her how to win that fight if she wants. Diella, having suffered the ridicule and scorn of everyone she has ever met, who thought that her house was past its prime because of her, immediately agrees. She wanted to win. Diella didn't come here as Reg's sister, much less the youngest of House Duplan. She is standing there, only as Derek's student and a mage. As they both stay in against each other, the butler clears his throat. They will be applying the sparring rules of the high-rank mages of Ebelstein. Whichever side triggers General Pelham's protective magic circle first will be declared the loser. With that, they may begin. The General Pelham's protective magic circle is an accessory that activates right before the wearer would take major damage, nullifying their spell. So this is how nobles fight, huh? They use expensive accessories. It must be nice to be rich. They can basically play around with money. The duration is 10 minutes, and it seems like Reg plans to finish this fight before that. He immediately begins by chanting a powerful spell, feeling sorry for her a bit, but it's better for her to be in the annex. He lets out a powerful wind slash, and Diella doesn't move at first, but suddenly gets out of the way. Reg gets mad and uses his magic to summon 2 more strikes. Derek thinks that she can handle 1-star magic with ease, but it seems she's a complete beginner to combat. Since she's forcing the trajectory to make it hit, she will burn through a lot of mana. Diella uses her ice wall to block these next strikes, but Reg wonders just how long that little trick of hers will work. This is nothing but a fluke, which he will break through with sheer firepower. Seeing his strikes, Diella remembers Derek's words. Mercenaries fight differently from nobles. They do not treat fairness as virtue. They only focus on victory. It's far from a typical duel between nobles. Even if she wins, she will be criticized. Regardless, she can still create an ending where she comes out on top. Is she fine with that? Diella immediately agreed, and now she's dead set on winning. As the wind strikes come in, she continues to dodge them. Among mercenaries, there are people who win even when there's a gap in strength. Those people usually don't duel, but actually fight. Reg redirects his strike but misses again. By fight, Derek meant they control the battlefield by making use of their terrain and surroundings. They literally use any and all methods to achieve victory. They must even grab the advantage of the very short period where their enemy lets their guard down. Diella blocks another attack, and Reg thinks it's over, as a blast crashes down behind her. Derek does not react, but Miriella screams out, telling the butler to end the duel this instant. Duplan tells her to shut it and sit down, as it's not over yet. Miriella notes that he saw it too. She was hit by that attack. Duplan tells her that she's wrong. He's watching Derek, and he didn't even blink. Perhaps he had expected her to grow this much? Reg walks through the dust he created, knowing that attack should have hit. Where did she go? Suddenly he feels something coming from below, and sure enough, a strike which almost hits him appears. Reg looks at the butler, thinking that this must count as a loss since she left the platform, but he just shakes his head, meaning that she still is technically inside. They probably never even considered a petty trick like this to be used in a noble duel. Suddenly, another strike appears. Then another. Then another. Raig cannot see her. Landing an attack on her will be difficult now. On the other hand, all she needs to do is land one blow on him. This is not how a noble fights. He sees her through the openings she made, and that fiery look in her eyes. He saw it somewhere else before. It's the same look Derek had when Valerian grabbed him by the collar. He knew that Diella couldn't come up with this on her own. This was all this bastard's plan. It's time for him to get serious. He removes his cloak, as he will play along with this little scheme of theirs. As Raig removes his cloak, Miriella can't believe that Diella went under the platform, under all that dust and more. She asks Duplan what he is doing. He should stop the fight at once. He refuses, as no rules have been broken, so they should watch just a bit longer, he says, thinking that this just got interesting. Diella sits down, and with her concentration, she begins to slowly see the flow of mana. Using this, just as Raig is about to cast Gain, she unleashes another ice pillar toward him, forcing a dodge. He is clearly annoyed, as she's going for his feet when he begins incantations. Surely, he cannot go down like this. He looks around, trying to find something to work with, and suddenly his eyes lock onto the pillar that is holding their family flag. Diella notices that the mana flow has stopped, meaning that he is up to something. Whatever he does, the next time he begins another incantation, she will definitely get him. The butler is a bit worried, as he sees the young master climb the pillar he was just looking at. From this distance, Diella shouldn't be able to react to his mana, but trying to cast spells from here is a challenge, to say the least. There is one other way, however. He begins to push out a lot of mana from his hand, aiming to destroy the entire platform. Suddenly, he sends that mana arrow right at the end of the pillar, making it shatter into bits and pieces. Eventually, it cracks enough to snap in two, and as Raig falls down with it, he jumps, letting the pillar roughly crash onto the entire arena. Miriella screams out at her son, fearing that he may have gotten hurt, but as the dust clears, he seems to be fine. His eyes take a moment to adjust, as his body is still shaken by what he did, but eventually he sees a figure in the distance, and sends another arrow straight at it. Diella sees the incoming arrow and tries to dispel it, but she doesn't have enough reach, so she is forced to dodge and continue running. Raig knows all too well that he has the advantage at close range, so with just one magic arrow, he can finish this. Just as he thinks this, Diella suddenly rushes in with a mighty kick to his chest, making the proud Raig fall to his knees and grip his chest as it tightens. Diella is not done yet, as she picks up a bunch of sand and throws it in his eyes before climbing out of the floor and onto the arena. Raig wipes his eyes, incredibly annoyed. All this kicking and throwing of sand. She's doing everything she can because she has no more mana. She's doing all of it just to win, even while knowing that it's impossible. He admits to himself that this duel was a fight to prove her worth, so as her brother, he will do his best not to shame her. He climbs out of the flooring too, and Diella is prepared for him, even if she is currently bleeding. She thinks of what Derek told her, to think of magic like brushstrokes in a painting. Mana is the paint she is using, and spellcasting is her trusty brush. She just has to collect the free-floating paint with her brush to create a whole image. That is what magic can be for her. Diella was once amazed and watched with curiosity, and now, having understood what he meant, she begins to glow as mana permeates around her. Mana is paint, and spells are a brush. She can finally feel that mana right at her fingertips, so she uses it to draw a spear, along with other ice shards. The butler is amazed, and Miriella is shocked as Diella has somehow used one-star magic. Raig recognizes this too, as those are ice spears she is using. She's done it now though. Since she can do something like this and stand proud, he does not have to hold back anymore. Even so, this will not change the outcome of this match. He summons a bunch of arrows at his side, thinking that he is still ahead, even in one-star magic. He will hit her before she hits him, and with that, he will win. Diella suddenly throws that spear toward him, and Raig unleashes a flurry of arrows toward her as well. The two strikes connect, creating a large blast of mana and shocking everyone there. As the dust clears, only a few things can be seen. Somebody's protection barrier was activated, and both combatants are pretty tired, while Derek watches on without much emotion to show. 1 year ago, as spring was in full swing, Duplan walked around the estate, the butler telling him about a letter that had come regarding the upcoming social gathering that was taking place. However, he came upon Diella's room and saw her just sitting alone on a chair, her expression a sad one to have for a mere child. Alas, he could not do anything, as even if he pulled her out of this state, she would likely just go back. The result of the attacks is visible now. It was Diella's barrier that activated, leaving her breathless. Her spear missed by just a few inches, even Raig recognizing that it was pretty close. Derek doesn't really react that much. He just puts his head down and realizes that they lost. Suddenly, Diella lets out all of her repressed emotions as she begins to cry. Duplan still watching on. The hag next to him demands to know what he was thinking. Something this filthy and vulgar should not ever be considered a magic spar. It was an insult to magic itself. Duplan drowns her out completely as he watches his daughter cry, and suddenly remembers when he took part in the war. He introduces himself to the king, noting it's an honor to serve. The king had already heard a lot about him from his father. He certainly had his eyes, ones full of ambition. Now he sees that look in Diella's teary eyes too. At least her expression has improved a lot. The maids who were once fearful of her dash in, concerned for her well-being, one of them saying that she needs treatment at once, but she refuses. She slowly walks up to Reg, who cannot look her in the eye as he says that she did some good work. She bows her head once and goes away, one of the maids saying that she will escort her to her chambers, but once again, Diella ignores them and goes straight to Derek. Her lower lip begins to quiver as tears roll down her face once again. She grasps the end of her skirt as she says that she lost, and she is sorry for it. Derek looks at her for a bit and gets up, noting that it's alright. It's completely fine to lose. It's a part of life after all. However, she should use this frustration to climb higher and grow even stronger than before. Hearing this, Diella begins to wail again, the maid's not doing anything, but still feeling sad for her. Miriella arrives and immediately grabs Diella, noting that she cannot believe she went through all that strife. She must have had such a hard time. However, it's all right now. She should go quickly and get treated. Diella agrees, and Miriella watches on as she wipes her tears away. After that, she immediately makes her way to the unknown Derek and begins to scream. She calls him a vulgar bastard. Does he even understand what he has done? So what if you taught her one-star magic? Does he think that he's impressive because of that? She slaps him, then grabs his cloak and closes in. He taught her nothing but cheap, dirty tricks, smearing filth all over her purity and nobility. She slaps him again and continues screaming, noting that there's a world where lowly trash like him doesn't even know exists, something with value worth protecting. Even trash like him should have this dignity. She sees Duplan approaching and notes that he saw it too, right? That was no magic spear. He was teaching Diella the most awful things. How will she grow up now with that trash in her mind? Suddenly, Duplan smacks the shit out of her and asks if she really doesn't realize the one who is behaving the most vulgarly right now. She doesn't understand why this person is just a mere commoner. Duplan agrees. He is a commoner, all right, but he is their daughter's teacher. What parent, in this entire world of theirs, treats the teacher of their child in such a manner? He apologizes to Derek, noting that he should forgive her. Everyone has their own way of loving their child. Derek says nothing, and then notes that it's fine. Duplan turns around and notes that they have something to discuss separately in his study. As she watches them leave, Miriella's eyes are filled with hate, proving that a backhand would have been much more efficient. As Duplan begins to write as he usually does, he tells Derek that he has raised Diella amazingly. As the master of this estate, he should grant him an appropriate reward, right? The highest realm permitted to a commoner is 3 stars. So does he want that? Derek is surprised, but he hit the mark exactly. He knows him well, it seems. Even better than he knows himself, making an effort especially tailored for him. This is a 5-star mage, a Grand Duke of the nation. So when he gives out an opportunity like this, it must be seized. He agrees, as he does actually want it. Duplan notes that his achievement, teaching Diella 1-star magic, is not something to scoff at, but in Ebelstein's high society, that level of achievement is not enough to survive. Derek notes that there are plenty of people in this estate who can guide Diella. Now that she's found the feel for it, she will flourish a lot more than before. Duplan tells him that his daughter does not need an instructor, but she does need a teacher. He puts his pen down for a little while and notes that he, as a commoner, harbors such great ambition, but he is not even permitted to dream of it. Derek thinks that they have not spoken that much, have they? Duplan continues, asking if he knows how insulting that must feel to those lofty nobles. However, he is willing to look the other way because of what he has accomplished. Derek thinks that even without them talking, he knows that he is looking beyond 3-star, or even 4-star. That is what makes him such a frightening individual, and all the more of a target for some. Duplan notes that if he's truly embraced that intention, he cannot remain in this place for a long time. He's probably already prepared to leave, isn't he? Derek confirms as such, and Duplan does not want to be ignorant of his ambitions. But even so, he must teach Diella a little while longer. That is why he wants to give him the highest realm permitted to a commoner, the realm of 3-star magic. With this, Derek is granted access to a library, and just by picking up a random magic book and reading through it for a bit, he thinks it's amazing. Some people spend their entire lives trying to obtain a single 2-star spell book, and yet, this is all 3-star spell books, all in one place. With this much, there's enough reason for him to stay in this estate for a little while longer, but he knows that if Peline finds out, she will certainly raise hell. 3 days pass, and Diella seems to have recovered, noting that she is a 1-star mage now. Derek notes that she used 1-star magic only once, so yeah, she can be called a 1-star mage, although barely. Diella is confused. That's it. His apprentice achieved progress, and he is not at all happy. Derek notes that it's not an achievement he has heard personally, so no, not really. Diella sighs. saying that he really isn't easy to work with, and Derek notes that it seems she recovered over the last 3 days. He keenly remembers crying her eyes out back then, right? Diella sits down, clearly embarrassed, and notes that nobody was crying. It was just that dust got into her eyes. That's it. She also pouts a little, noting that they should have told her sooner that he wasn't going to get kicked out. Derek feels that's enough talk. They should start today's lesson. She is growing quickly, so she will learn the other 1-star spells soon too. Hearing a bit of praise, Diella immediately turns to him and asks to repeat what he just said. Derek doesn't want to, but explains that her growth is uncommon, to be able to use 1-star magic not long after her magic manifestation. Diella feels proud, she told him previously, that she is the kind of person who does what she says she will. So what do they start with? Magic arrow, as that seemed rather convenient to cast, or windblade, the one that Reg used, as it looked really nice. Perhaps that ice spear too, as it felt amazing. If she practices a bit more, she will be able to hit any target. Derek shuts all of her dreams down by noting that she will actually be practicing magic manifestation. Diella asks why they aren't learning 1-star spell now. Derek notes that there are a lot of reasons for it, but in the end, the basics are what matter most. If he were to put it simply, it basically comes down to mana. Diella relents, and says that they should do that then. If he says so, it is what it is. But she got all excited, thinking that they were actually going to do some fun stuff. Derek looks on at her with a certain look, and Diella notices, making her wonder why he's doing this. Does she have something on her face? Derek says that's not it. It's just surprising to see her listen so obediently. Diella becomes embarrassed and asks who he takes her for. She's respected his words from the very beginning. Derek doesn't know what to say about that one, as when they first met, she poured diary water over his head, twice. Diella hoped that he would have forgotten that, but Derek notes that it's pretty hard to forget such a thing. Diella tries to change the subject, noting that they are having great weather today, and magic manifestation sounds fun, so they should hurry up and practice. Seeing her try not to think about what she did, Derek smiles. They continue training until the night. Diella is on the ground, completely exhausted, and Derek notes that he heard she's going to get busier. As he sits down with her, she confirms as such, but she really doesn't know. They said that starting next week, she will be taking etiquette and general education classes, or whatever. Derek asks if she doesn't think of that as a good thing. She's learned 1-star magic, so now she will be receiving a true noble's education. Diella asks if he really thinks this is making her happy. Basic noble etiquette, foreign languages, geography, history, botany, piano, and even sewing. She just does not understand why she has to learn all of that stuff. How did Aiseline endure all of it until now? Derek notes that this is why she's called the Flower of Duplain, and why she's at the center of Ebelstein's high society. Diella says that she only wants to study magic, so Derek tells her to do it. Duplain himself hired him, so they have plenty of leeway as is. Diella is not sure if they will really have that much time for that anymore. Derek asks if there really is anyone who would kick him out at this point. Diella confirms as much, even if her father acknowledged him. Her mother isn't the type to just let things go, unfortunately. Derek doesn't really understand why she wants to drive him out so badly, so Diella tells him that she's probably worried that if she learns from him, she will drift away from the noble dignity she depends on, and will end up becoming a mercenary like him. Even just looking at today's spar, its dignity is a far cry from what nobles usually do. Derek thinks on it a bit, and notes that this is nothing special then. It seems that silencing her mother really is not as difficult as she thinks. She just has to remove her pretext. Diella wonders what he means by this. The next day, as Miriella walks throughout the estate, she wonders how she could ever meet such an indecent teacher. Her poor little girl. She just knows that one day, that mercenary boy will continue to corrupt her with his mercenary ways, and soon enough, she will go into the Ebelstein High Society as a crooked woman who does not care about etiquette or anything good in life. She's about to faint just thinking about it. Even so, what could that lowly commoner possibly teach Diella? Even if her husband acknowledged him, she is the mistress of this estate, and she will find a way to remove him somehow. As she gets out of the estate though, she is met with Diella, and thinks that she will immediately hug her. Even if people say she is childish, she loves the way she runs into her arms with a smile every time. She continues waiting though, and then opens her eyes, seeing that Diella is in no way thinking of approaching her, and instead bows down, asking if she rested well last night, surprising Miriella. Diella notes that she could not leave the annex while she was treating her injuries, so she's sorry if she missed the chance to catch up to her properly. There is much she wants to speak with her about, but unfortunately, she has a piano lesson this morning. Miriella, still a bit shaken, understands. Diella bows down again, noting that she will be going first, as her general education schedule is packed. Miriella is confused. Her etiquette lessons, they haven't started them yet, right? Should they be starting around next week? Diella responds just as her sister would, confirming as such, and thanks to her generous consideration, she is very much looking forward to them. Miriella agrees and tells her to hurry to not be late for class, but everyone who is watching is left stunned. Even one of the maids drops the firewood she was carrying as Diella walks past. As she does, She tells the maid to be careful and not overstrain herself. The maid sheepishly agrees, and they all watch as she walks away, seeming like an entirely different person than the one she was previously. In the noble district of Ebelstein, Iseline notes that it feels like Rosia's salon has been bustling with laughter. The one she is having tea with notes that she was truly worried at the last gathering, as she looked so weighed down with worry about something. Iseline is surprised. Why now? Well, she didn't mean to make her worry. Most of what she was worried about has been resolved, so she feels a lot better now. The one she is speaking with, the second daughter of House Belmiaro, Elente, notes it's a real relief when she hears the rumor that she went outside the noble district to save someone. She was rather worried. Aislinn thanks her for worrying about her. The truth is, her younger sister Diella needed a magic teacher, so she was a bit busy because she went to find one herself. Elente keeps a calm face, but behind that mask, she wonders why she went to find someone in person. What does that even mean? Just how incredible of a teacher did that person have to be for the plain young lady to find them in person? The other girl, who is standing there, the second daughter of House Veltis, Denise, asks what she means by, for her sister. Iseline explains that she saw Diella at the mansion not long ago, and she became such a proper young lady she could hardly recognize her. She even manifested one-star magic, and her conduct was so neat and composed, it made her feel like she needed to work even harder. Denise notes that she must have found a good magic teacher, but behind that mask, she thinks that it's strange for Aiseline to bring up her sister like this. Iseline confirms that he doesn't have much status, but he is exceptionally capable. It really was worth going all the way to the Belden Mercenary Corps to find that person. Both girls are taken aback by this. A mercenary, however, Elente now recalls, isn't Diella the reason the infamous cook ran away from Duplan, crying when she said the food was good? To think that the teacher not only reformed that infamous girl but even turned her into a one-star mage. A pleasant smile appears on her face, and asks Aiseline for the name of this teacher. If he is Diella's teacher, he will become more famous in the future, right? So she wants to at least know his name in advance. Aiseline is happy to share it. His name is Derek. Just Derek. Back at the mansion, Diella speaks with her mother, noting that Derek is also teaching her a little etiquette, which is pretty hard to learn on her own. Melissa understands it's really admirable for her to study by herself. Her mother asks what was difficult when she was studying by herself, and Diella notes that most of it can be done, thanks to Derek. Melissa lets out a shaky laugh and understands, but she can't stomach it. All she talks about is Derek. Just how many times has the name come up in their conversation? Seriously? She doesn't know what he did to Diella, but she can't just let this stand. There has to be some way around this. She asks one of the maids, who says that Diella has been kind to the servants lately. She has gotten rather gentle. The gardener explains that Diella has also been in a good mood lately. She's changed so much in just a few weeks. Even the main butler finds it a bit surprising, because that kind of demeanor he saw only from Iseline. It appears that Diella is finally trying to be a true lady. One can feel the noble dignity coming from her. That night, using a book of spells, Derek is training. He pours out all of his mana, trying to conjure a spell, but fails, puffing and huffing from the exhaustion. Suddenly, Reg appears behind him, apologizing if he was interrupting his training. Derek says it's fine, and asks what brings him here as they both sit down. Reg explains that he wanted to talk a bit about Diella, but before that, is what he is holding a 3-star spellbook. Derek confirms as such. His grace lent it to him. Reg is surprised to hear that he lent it to him. Derek confirms as such. It's a difficult level for him right now, but there is no harm in studying ahead of time. Reg remembers the words his father said about Derek, and decides to let it go, noting that it's impressive. Derek asks, what about Lady Diella? Did he come to see him for that? Reg sheepishly asks what teenage girls like her like these days. If he embroidered a doll that looks like her, would she like that? Derek, remembering the travesty his other brother had made in the past, immediately denies this plan. Reg lets out a shaky laugh. He figured it would be like that. He's not saying he'd make it or anything, but, well, it's probably not desirable as well, right? They should probably head out soon too if he is done training. As they walk though, Reg explains that he is grateful the mood in the household has been rather good lately. Even Valerian has been focusing on managing the territory, and his father doesn't show it, but he looks satisfied. Derek wonders if it's so, as it's hard to read his feelings, and Reg laughs, as everyone would agree with him. He guesses he should accept what he needs to accept too, that people can change, especially kids at that age. He doesn't know if he simply did not realize it sooner, or if he was just avoiding it, but since Diella has changed, he's thinking he should change too. This is all thanks to him, so he wants to thank him. Derek just gives him a curt nod, and Reg notes that Diella's magic felt like a different kind of magic. What's that about? It was like someone drawing a picture. He thinks to himself that a genius is a genius at the end of the day, right? He's a genius through and through. It shouldn't be that easy to notice the difference. He confirms that yes, Diella uses the mana operation of the School of the Wild. Reg has heard of it in the past. Derek explains that each person's way of using mana differs greatly. Once she reaches a certain track, she will be able to study on her own. At that level, a teacher's interference can actually become a hindrance. Reg understands that level. She will eventually reach it, and her time to shine will eventually come. 2 months later, as one of the maids is embroidering her hair, she asks, "What's with the flowers on the table?" The maid explains that they bloomed rather beautifully, so she brought them to put in her hair. Yahello grabs them and notes that they smell really nice. It feels like spring has already been around for the past 2 months. She is already comfortable using even 1-star magic, and she's gotten much closer with the servants too. It seems that she missed so much at this time, and it's probably all thanks to Derek. The maid was wondering why she looked so happy today. Is it because it's magic lesson day? Yahello confirms as such, and tells the maid to give her one of those remaining flowers so she can give it to Derek. Unfortunately though, as soon as she gets to his room, her bubble shatters, and she drops the pretty flower on the ground. She asks if what Derek just said is true, and he confirms as such. From this point forward, there is nothing left for him to teach her. This is how all seasons are. Just as there is no eternal winter, there cannot be an eternal spring. That day, Derek went to Duplain, noting that he likely noticed as well that Yahello belongs to the school of the wild, and among them, her trait is pretty strong. If he involves himself with her further, he would only end up damaging her wings. Duplain understood, so there is no reason for him to remain at the mansion. Derek agreed, and Duplain got up and went to his window. Thanks to him, many things have changed. Because of him, his daughter was able to grow and will continue doing so. He was so consumed with managing the territory that he has not been a good father to her. But now, he was relieved. After a bit of silence, he asked Derek when he would leave, and he told him that he heard Azeline will visit soon, and then return to Ebelstein. He plans to ride in her carriage. Duplain understood. He may return the library key then. Derek agreed, noting that he will also return the spell books he is currently reading, and he will pass the key to the butler. Duplain told him there was no need for that. He will return the key now. Derek was confused, as the 3rd-tier book was still tied to his waist, but Duplain dismissed him, basically giving him the book. Derek remained silent for a bit, and then bowed down. As he takes the last of his walk through the mansion, Yahello comes up to him, noting that he shows up out of nowhere, and then leaves out of nowhere. Derek tells her it can't be helped, and Yahello knows he will not listen, but she wants to try anyway. Will he really not stay? Derek approaches her and leans down to face her. He will be returning to his life. As a mercenary, he will study a lot of magic too, and once she builds up the skill, she will go to Ebelstein and eventually make her debut. Yahello seems saddened, but Derek notes that they will meet then. If his level rises a little more by that time, he will be able to teach her something new again. Yahello finds him annoying. He always says what he has to, so she can't say anything back. That night, Yahello has nightmares, the usual ones, about being called useless, incompetent, and a waste of the Duplain name. Suddenly she wakes up, screaming and breathing roughly, calming herself down, as it was a nightmare. Suddenly one of the maids rushes in, asking what happened. She heard shouting, "What happened?" Suddenly, in her dreary state, Yahello gets an idea. What if she creates a pretext? Maybe she will go back to slapping this maid's face like before, and throw tantrums. Then, will Derek stay with her? The maid asks if she is alright. Is she perhaps feeling unwell? Suddenly though, Yahello takes a deep breath and says that she is fine. She needn't worry. She is not going back to her old self. That wouldn't make her valuable. As morning arrives, Azeline takes off after yesterday's visit, asking if dropping Derek off at the commercial district is fine. Derek confirms as such, and she tells him to go and say his goodbyes, as they will depart soon. Derek looks behind him and sees everyone there. Valerian asks if he really is leaving, and Derek notes that he has to go back to where he came from. After all, Reg notes that life at the mansion must have been hard. He's worked hard up until now. Valerian tells him that should anything happen, he should contact him, as he will help as much as possible. Derek thanks them, and then looks at Yahello, who asks why he's looking like that. Did he expect her to beg him to stay? He really shouldn't get the wrong idea, as she's no child anymore. Derek tells her that it was an honor to teach her. He can't proudly declare himself a teacher yet, but he hopes she remembers the magic she learned with him. Yahello apologizes, but she will proudly announce that he is her teacher. He won't be able to live quietly anymore. He is the teacher of the great Yahello Duplain, after all. Derek just gives her a blank stare, and Yahello looks away, telling him to take care of himself, and not do anything too dangerous. Derek notes that he will be fine. She also shouldn't overextend herself either. Yahello notes she's an adult already. She can take care of herself. Derek remembers saying something similar in the past, but it only caused his teacher to embrace him and ask him to take these words to heart, the words which he will now share with Yahello. She doesn't need to become an adult so early. Yahello bites her lip to stiffen her tears, but eventually lets them flow a bit, and waves Derek off with a smile, noting that they will see each other again. Derek bows down one last time, and says that next time, they will meet in Ebelstein. As noon drapes over Ebelstein, in the mercenary building, there seems to be a fight going on with the others just cheering on. Derek just stares at the onslaught Pauline is unleashing with a smile on his face, glad that he is back home, where he needs to be. The next day at the Belden Tavern, Jaden offers Derek some honey wine. The kind nobles act all classy about it, but he used to love it. It's a welcome drink, and on the house only this time. Derek thanks him, and Pauline looks at him, wondering if he was always this pale. Did he get paler after living like a noble all this time? When she heard he became a magic teacher, she figured the nobles took some kind of drug altogether. So what happened there? Derek explains that he simply worked there. There is not much to tell. Pauline gets annoyed listening to him talking like a noble. Would it kill him to chat a bit about it? Jaden tells her that's enough, and to have a drink too. But Pauline is just annoyed she went through hell working alone because he wasn't here. Jaden steers the conversation, noting that thanks to that, Derek must have brought back plenty of money, right? So did the plan pay well? Derek agrees, but he has received something far more important than money. He pulls out the book he received, and Jaden wonders what this is. Could this be a 2-star spell book? Pauline wonders how he even got something so rare, but Derek denies those accusations. This is actually a 3-star spell book. They immediately become scared, Jaden telling him that if he stole it, he will be dead if he gets caught. Pauline doesn't care about that though. She just wants to steal one too. Where did he get it from? Derek wonders what they think of him, and explains that the Grand Duke gave it to him. Pauline tells him not to lie. Is the Duke perhaps looking for archery instructors too, as she wants a piece of the pie? Derek just sighs, and lets her wear herself out. That night, as Pauline falls asleep, Derek asks if any requests have come in lately. Jaden asks why he wants to know. Is he planning to take a request when he's just returned? Derek confirms as such. If it's something light, like a simple subjugation, it's because he felt like he lost his edge a bit. Jaden stops his brooding, and wonders if he is even capable of losing that edge. There is always a shortage of mages in this line of work. If he wants work, there's more than enough to go around. Derek says that he wants to start work tomorrow as early as possible. With that, he goes on a quest with Pauline, barely defeating some ogres, plundering a spider's lair and all that. Each time, Pauline suffers some kind of ailment. One night though, as they were supposed to sleep, Derek continues practicing his 3-star spells. He almost seems to get one, forming some sort of ice from his hands, but it blows up in his face and makes a thunderous sound throughout the forest. Still, Derek did not suffer any serious injuries. He's got the hang of most 2-star spells. However, the 3-star wall really is extremely high, although that won't deter him. Just as this spring turns into autumn, and autumn into winter, so too does he press on. One day, as they come back to the tavern from a mission, Pauline wonders how much colder it is going to get, as she can't handle it anymore. Jaden welcomes them back, noting that it's good to be young. They went to the Kent Mountains and back in this weather. Pauline didn't really want to. She told Derek multiple times to go when it warms up. Jaden hands them 2 hot towels and says that they are the only ones who are crazy enough to bring a harpy's head back in this weather. As they both clean off, Jaden explains that since they worked hard, they will probably need rest tomorrow. But it just so happens that a request came in that fits him perfectly. By him, he means Derek. He asks what kind of request, and Jaden explains that it's an expensive and rather easy one, though it might be a bit of a hassle depending on what he considers as such. The next day, as Derek walks, he thinks that this request got sent from the Rohel Mercenary Corps on West Street. It's actually from Count Bellamard. They are apparently looking for a commoner to help with magic sparring. To put it bluntly, they need a punching dummy. He just goes, takes a few hits, and that's basically it. He arrives at the Noble District's magic sparring arena. Around there, Elente walks with her instructor and asks who she is sparring with today. The instructor explains that to practice offensive magic, they have arranged a commoner. Elente is not really pleased. Is he really telling her to beat up a commoner? The instructor explains that this is also part of her training. The commoner is sufficient compensation so she may practice to her heart's content. Elente sighs and says, "Sure, this practice is just beating the hell out of a commoner, like typical nobles." The instructor notes that, even so, he is someone who can handle 1-star magic pretty well. Elente says that she will be able to. She will be a 2-star soon enough. Isn't there a massive difference between a 1-star and a 2-star? Like the heavens and the earth? Derek sits down in the arena and prepares, but suddenly Elente arrives and asks if he is the one she is sparring with today. Derek confirms as such, and introduces himself. Elente does the same, and thinks that she's heard this name a lot from somewhere, but she doesn't know where. Could someone so young really be a mage? They go to the sparring arena, and after Elente stretches, she asks if he knows the basic etiquette of magic sparring. Derek does, and she thinks that's good. He should resist as much as he can, as she will end this quickly. Elente will do it if she has to, but if she blasts him out of bounds with a shockwave, it will be over in no time. She just doesn't want to hurt him that much. Derek wonders, resisting as much as he can, just how much resistance is she asking for? Elente is confused, question is that even? Derek explains that he needs to know how much he should resist for him to be helpful to her. The instructor shakes his head, knowing what's coming, and Alente lets out one last laugh. He sure has a funny way of talking. It's like she said, he will resist with everything he's got. Derek understands if that is her command. Who is he to deny it? They both get ready, and as Alente begins chanting, she thinks that this commoner's breath is worth praising for mastering the 1-star rank at such a young age, but he is far too arrogant. She will make him understand the wall between nobles and commoners, so that he doesn't get hurt in the future. Suddenly, she lets out an air blast, but Derek just weaves it and lets it go into a nearby tree, which completely shatters it. Alente is confused, and Derek just asks what the next attack is. She naturally gets even more annoyed. It seems he did have a reason to be confident, but that doesn't mean the wall between them disappears. She begins chanting harder now, and summons a bunch of magic arrows from the ground, which she sends into a volley directly toward Derek. In response, he lets out one small projectile that begins to weave through the arrows, shattering them completely before landing near Alente. She's shocked, not because that spell was special or anything. It's a simple spell, but he can control it to this degree? No, for a commoner, his level of magic is excellent. It seems the claim of him being a veteran mercenary just wasn't empty talk. She admits that she underestimated him, but this time she will attack even more seriously. She begins chanting a fiery spell, which begins to summon immense power around her. Derek sees the change in strategy. She is not trying to hit him, but is planning to blow him away from the arena. For a noble to have this level of adaptability is pretty impressive. She continues summoning her power, transforming it into fiery arrows, and sends a much larger volley to him this time. Derek, knowing this is something he cannot dodge, in response creates a shield. The fiery arrows keep pummeling him again and again and again, until the entire arena is covered in dust. Still, Derek comes out fine, but it appears that this is not the only thing she was preparing, as Alente appears right in front of him, wielding a rather long ice spear. Derek is impressed. At this range, there is no way to dodge it, or even deploy a barrier. Her talent is pretty nice, but he has a trick up his sleeve. With one flick of his fingers, he creates a blinding light, and Alente is forced to stop in her steps. Not only that, she is temporarily blinded. She cannot even see a thing anymore. She tries to focus and listen as carefully as she can to find his position, but suddenly she hears something pass by, just by the crook of her neck. Actually, she didn't hear a thing though. As she slowly regains her vision, she sees him throw another attack, which barely misses her by inches. She recognizes what it is. It's a delusion-type magic that makes sound disappear. He even calculated that she would rely on hearing before, after blinding her, then that first attack that missed. He should have hit her. How dare he go easy on her like that? Derek sends the 2 remaining strikes toward her, so she is forced to block them, and that's what he's been waiting for all this time. He immediately closes the distance, but Alente is pleased to see this. Rapid magic manifestation is her specialty. After all, she focuses. The moment magic manifests from his hands, she will manifest it first, and end this. However, she was looking at the wrong place. As she jumps away, Derek just smashes his foot in the ground, and she sees that from the tip of his toes, magic manifests a flurry of electricity, which once again, she is forced to block. The instructor is impressed. He seems to be from the School of the Wild, but he cannot read the flow from the perspective of the School of Regulations. As Alente catches her breath, she notes that he is a really interesting kid. She'll be honest. At first, when she looked at him, she thought he was just some blustering liar, but she was able to learn something rather interesting. Immediately after saying that, she replicates his strike perfectly, but Derek wouldn't get hit by one of his own attacks. He weaves the magic around himself and redirects the strike immediately, forcing her to block again, but this time, he charges in, completely overwhelming her. Before anything can happen though, the instructor rings the bell, ending the match. Derek immediately retreats and bows, thanking her for the fight. Alente bites her lower lip a bit, knowing she was about to get cooked if the match hadn't stopped. After sitting down, Alente notes that he is a rather splendid mage, but Derek doesn't think as such. She is the one with reflexes he has not seen before. Alente notes that, seeing him flatter her like that, he must be pretty used to this side of the world. She heard he was a commoner though. Judging by his skill, he must have honed it through bone-grinding effort. Derek explains that he has to survive as a mercenary after all. Alente tells him to save the humility. She likes hard-working people, but that old magic teacher behind her probably won't like him a lot, so he should not get on his bad side too much. Well, thanks to him, she did learn a few things. There is another sparring match at Rosia's salon next time. She might even get a good result. Derek notes that, with her skill, there shouldn't be much to worry about. Alente agrees normally, but she is not interested in fighting small fry. The person she truly wants to beat is Azaline Eleanor Duplan. Derek says nothing. Guess she's gone on for too long. He may go now. As he leaves, she thinks about his name. Derek of the Belden Mercenary Corps. She has heard of it before, but from where? Suddenly, that's when she remembers that Celine said that name. Derek is Diela's teacher. As he walks away, Elente rushes in and grabs his hand, noting that he is the one. Isn't he the one who taught Diela? As evening arrives, they go inside, and Elente gets straight to the point. If she can beat Iseline, she will do anything. Absolutely anything. Derek asks if she really wants to do that, and Elente confirms as such. As she said previously, Iseline still isn't a 2-star mage yet. It would be best if she reached 2-star first, but if she can't, then she wants to beat her at the magic spar this time around, at the very least. Derek picks up his cup of tea and notes that she has a surprisingly competitive spirit. Although Elente thinks that's just dressing it up. Before, she wanted to beat Iseline so bad she wouldn't hesitate doing something unsightly. She recognizes now that jealousy is a dirty and pathetic thing. She was jealous of Iseline, and the results did not turn out well. No matter how much she gossiped behind her back and tried to dig up her flaws, Iseline only tried to understand and embrace her instead. Derek is a bit confused. Why is she telling him all this? Elente puts her cup down and explains that she wanted him to know her sincerity, even if she had to expose her shameful side, and she has a few things she wants to ask too. Derek tells her to go ahead. So Elente notes that Derek staying with Duplain, he should know well enough just how skilled Iseline is, and what her skills are like too. That is why she is asking him what must she do. Derek notes that Iseline's skill is at an astonishing level, but Elente also possesses incredible skill. So if she works hard to refine her abilities, she might just win. Sometimes you can read a person's heart just from their eyes. This young lady in front of him isn't asking him this because she wants praise. She is desperate, enough so to seek an answer from a lowly mercenary. Silence falls between them, and Derek decides to give her an honest answer. She cannot defeat Iseline. Silence falls again as they look at each other, and Elente breaks it, noting that even so she wants to win, even if it's impossible to do so. Derek is a bit surprised, and then Elente gets up, as he made that good-for-nothing Diela into an actual mage. Can he make it so she defeats Iseline as well? Derek knows that it's not that there is absolutely no method worth trying, but before that there are a few things that are bothering him. Elente is pleased with that, and asks what those things are. Derek firstly wonders, does she know how he taught Diela? Because it's not as pretty as she would expect. Elente does not know the details, but he shouldn't worry about that, as she will do anything to win. Derek goes on to his second point, explaining that he is a mercenary, but Elente doesn't let him finish. That's what he is worried about, that people will talk and they'll sneer that a noble young lady learned magic from just a mercenary. He should listen well, as she is serious right now. She's going to become someone whose name will resound across the entire empire. If she can't even take first place in Ebelstein's social circle, that's just absurd. So he shouldn't dare to try to judge her sincerity for such a petty reason. She knows very well what matters more than pride. Derek actually wasn't saying that. He was actually going to say that she needs to pay him, since he's a mercenary and all. Elente immediately gets embarrassed and sits back down. That's what he meant. Naturally, she will pay as much as he wants. Derek doesn't react to her embarrassment, and thinks that if she is truly serious, then he too should reciprocate that feeling, and use harsher methods this time. She needs to win, right? The next day, Iseline walks around with a bunch of other ladies in Ebelstein, noting that the upcoming gathering will also have a magic duel segment. She has heard that Lady Elente's skills have improved significantly. If that is the case, she should make thorough preparations as well. The other ladies are surprised it is time again for another gathering. Then, they must participate too. Just then, Elente arrives and notes that she is far too humble. Iseline is here, and notes that they were just talking about her. Elente knows she could hear her voice all the way from the end of the hall. After all, the other two ladies let them walk together, thinking that they shouldn't interrupt this. Elente asks if she doesn't need practice as well. Has she perhaps never tasted defeat before? Especially since she is known as the shining flower of the Duplain bloodline? Iseline thanks her for her flattery, and notes that even so, her opponent this time is she, so she cannot afford to be as careless as in the past. Elente confirms that she does feel a bit more confident, thanks to her new magic tutor. He is just a commoner, but his track record is impressive enough for her to hire him. She is still surprised. It's unusual for her to personally hire someone like this. It seems she places a lot of trust in this magic instructor of hers. Elente notes that, more accurately, the one who vouched for his ability so adamantly is actually Iseline. She still wonders when she vouched for anyone, but Elente tells her to remember their last meeting, as she was vouching for Diela's old tutor, Derek. Elente is heavily enjoying this shocked expression of hers. She must be angry, right? Probably incredibly frustrated too. The man she couldn't get a hold of is now hers. Instead, Iseline just grabs her hand, congratulating her adamantly. She is certain that she is incredibly wise and truly dependable, so she congratulates her once again. Elente just thanks her, thinking that this is not the reaction she was hoping for. But then Iseline remembers something, when she asked Diela to talk with Derek for some extra magic tutoring, since her growth has been stagnating as of late. Diella immediately spat out her tea and denied needing help. It's probably not necessary at all. Now, Iseline wonders why she said something like that, but Elente sees this as something else when she thinks about it carefully. She must know exactly what this means, that she snatched him away from her, right? Yes, this is the anger she wanted to see, because Elente Alphone Bellamard has openly stolen her tutor. Iseline continues thinking and wants to say that Derek might be a bit of something. Elente notes that it's getting late. They had a lovely chat today, and she will take her leave now, as today is her first tutoring session. With that, she leaves with a smile on her face. But Iseline is worried. It really shouldn't be anything serious, as Derek isn't the type to do something truly terrible, right? Besides, everyone must know he is just working hard to make a living. That's a reputable man, isn't he? Derek goes to Jaden with the news of his new job, noting that he will put everything else aside for now, and Jaden knows of the Earl Bellamard family. Why does his workload keep piling on like this? Derek notes that it doesn't matter as long as he can handle it here in Ebelstein, and he doesn't even need to make a long trip to the estate. Jaden is amused that he makes it sound so easy, but can Elente really handle this? Derek twirls his drink around and notes that it's not entirely a dead end. There might be a way through that tunnel, as long as Lady Elente can break through the 2-star level. Even if she is facing Iseline, who is well known for her strength, they can use that star-level advantage to overpower her and claim victory. Jaden would like to set that wishful thinking aside now, and asks what this oh-so-realistic plan is. Derek notes that this is why he actually came to him in the first place. That is why he needs his help with the plan. Furthermore, to guarantee an even safer environment, they will also need Pelline's help. Jaden, hearing all of this, turns around and notes that he is planning to do something reckless again, doesn't he? Derek is no liar, and explains that this entire plan is fundamentally dangerous. Pelline, who has heard all of this, drops down on the table with some crocodile tears, noting that it's extremely dangerous. Those nobles are absolute scammers. They scammed her completely and made her suffer and drained her coin down to the last. What will she do? Jaden, knowing what she's aiming at, notes that she should use some of this money and be done with it. That evening, Derek goes to Elente in the training grounds, and explains that first they start their lessons in the form of live combat training. Basically, this drill will be repeated around 10 times. Only after will he dive deeper and analyze the finer details of her magic. Elente is a bit confused. Is he just going to throw her into 10 consecutive rounds of pure combat? Derek says that he needs to observe her actual combat abilities firstly, and then move on to the more theoretical stuff. Elente is fine with it. It's very fitting of his mercenary background. She didn't hire him to sit around and lecture her about dusty textbooks anyway. Derek is pleased to hear that she agrees, and so they will begin. After the 10 rounds, the arena is in shambles, with the dust and smoke all around the broken floorboards. Elente herself can barely stand up at this point, but Derek remains his stoic self. He thanks her for the hard work, and tells her to rest for 10 minutes. After that, they will discuss the fundamentals of magic theory. Elente asks, only 10 minutes? She doesn't have a single drop of mana left. Derek notes that if she pushes herself, there should probably still be some mana left to draw. After the 10 minutes pass, Derek begins to teach her, noting that the shape of her arrows is incorrect. She should sharpen her focus and create 10 more arrows. Elente is annoyed that she has to do this, but Derek tells her that if she cannot do something like this, what else is she incapable of? She is still 5 arrows short. After this, she will fire 100 more magic arrows, and Elente says that she doesn't have any mana left, but Derek tells her to stop wasting time with excuses and create more arrows. After this, she is entirely and purely exhausted, and Derek notes that she's worked hard this entire session, so now she can go and have dinner. He also asks if she is alright. If she truly feels incapable of continuing, giving up is always an option, isn't it? Elente immediately gets up after hearing this and asks if he's really telling her to give up after just a little training. He gave her some pretty alarming warnings before they began. She thought the training would just be grueling, but it's just regular hard work. He surely can't imagine what she's had to go through just to survive in this high society he knows of. A little training like this is nothing. Derek wonders if that's so. Perhaps then he has underestimated her. Elente gets up on her shaky feet and explains that, since she's just returned from a social gathering, starting tomorrow, she will show him her true abilities. From then onwards, he had better ramp up the intensity of the training to an even higher level, because this light warm-up barely even made her break a sweat despite how dirty she is. Derek asks what she means by tomorrow. Did he not tell her previously? Right now, this is merely a dinner break. Elente just stares at him and notes that he has an unusual sense of humor. But Derek tells her that he did not take this job to be her clown. He is deadly serious about this. The next day, Derek continues his torturous training of Elente. He pushes her mana even further, telling her to do just 10 more magic arrows, as there is still plenty of mana left inside her body. Elente wonders why he keeps increasing that number. Next, Derek runs with her until she can't, but the training is not over, as they will be doing mana manifestation magic. By the end of it, Alente is extremely tired, and Derek asks if she's alright. She confirms as such, pretty sheepishly, noting that this is fun, which is a blatant lie. Derek also tells her that if it seems impossible, then giving up would also be an option. Alente laughs, as giving up is never an option. This much couldn't even be considered a workout. Derek looks at her for a good second, and then notes that they've rested enough. It's time to spar, even though she barely just sat down. 2 weeks later, as she sits with Denise in the park, Alente is completely tired and tells Denise to wake her up when Iseline arrives. Denise confirms as such, and Alente thanks her, noting that she's been so preoccupied with magic training these days that she hasn't even gotten time to sleep. Denise is curious about something, however. Why does she push herself so far? Alente stays silent for a moment and then answers, to win, because she wants to win. That's why. Denise is pretty surprised but then smiles, noting that she will be cheering for her. In the distance, she sees Iseline, and immediately tells Alente as such, who straightens up, and, under Iseline's gaze, begins to straighten her hair. One of Iseline's other friends notes that there's a clothing store that just opened, so they should go check it out. She agrees, and they all leave. She asks Denise if they really left, and she confirms as such, with Alente sighing. She hopes that she didn't see her as she was sprawled on the table. Iseline did see her, however, and is worried, as she seemed extremely tired. She is wondering if she is actually okay. One day, as a maid was brushing her hair, she explained that a gift from House Duplain had arrived. It's a bunch of goods along with a letter. It appeared to be from Azeline. They are all things that help recover mana. These are high-quality items, so they should be a great help to her. Alente, however, tells her maid to throw them all away. They should finish preparing, as Derek is likely here. The dear young ladies of Rosaya Salon. Winter approaches, and snow, and soon the pure white snow shall fall. She hopes they are all doing well in this cold winter. Their territory has produced many quality goods, and she wants to share them with everyone, so she is sending this. May their day be peaceful, as always. These were the contents of the letter. Derek is in the training area already, reading his book, and he suddenly spots Alente, who seems to be early and stretching. She knows that there is no time for pleasantries and asks for his assessment. He should know well. It's been several weeks since their training began, after all, so she wants him to be brutally honest. What does he think of her? Derek stays silent for a moment, then notes that giving up should be a good strategy too. Alente says nothing for a moment, then asks why he keeps offending her that way. Derek apologizes if it sounded that way, but Alente is really annoyed. Did he really tell her to just give up? How can she do something like that? How can Iseline be beaten? Is that not why she hired him? Not to suggest she give up, but to teach her how to win. Derek says nothing, and Alente continues her rant. If he is going to keep talking such nonsense, then he should just get lost, as he is wasting her time. Derek is confused. So what if she can't win? Obsessing over victory may actually hinder growth. No, it definitely hinders growth. Sometimes one should humbly accept defeat. Tears start to stream down Alente's face, and she knows that if that is so, then she would be too pathetic. She told him already. She was just a petty, shameful person who gossiped about Iseline. She is nothing like those other young ladies. She was just someone who was petty and jealous, and she accepts that all of it. She admits how lacking and pathetic she is. How can she not? She's admitted it all. There's no reason to hate Azeline. She knows that in her heart too. But then why won't this petty inferiority complex of hers just go away? Just why? Derek, however, knows what this is. Self-hatred. Alente always harbored some subtle self-hatred inside of her. At first, he thought it was just jealousy or competitive spirit for Iseline. But what this girl hated so much was not Iseline. It was simply herself. This fight wasn't brought on by just jealousy. It's her only escape from her self-hatred and feelings of inferiority. Derek walks past her and notes that if that is the case, then they should win. He will make sure that she defeats Iseline. Seeing him so determined, Alente agrees, as this is the only path forward. Velmir, the official magic instructor, makes his way back to the family estate through blades of grass and wheat. When he arrives, he looks upon the Bellimard mansion, and Alente's father greets him warmly, calling him Velmir. It seems that he has returned from Ebelstein. He must have had quite the journey, so they should sit down and talk. This is Count Bellimard, Tristan Bellimard. After they sit down, he notes that it's been ages since he's seen his treasure, Alente. Has she been doing well in Ebelstein? Velmir confirms that she has been concentrating even more on her magic training lately. Tristan laughs. He has never seen a young lady with talent like his Alente. That child will surely surpass even him in the future. Velmir hopes so as well, thinking that he must not let it be known that she's been learning from a commoner. That will not do well for him or Alente. Tristan also knows that he has some business in Ebelstein soon. What if he goes to find Alente himself and gives her a surprise gift? Velmir smirks sheepishly, noting that she would be extremely delighted, but in his heart of hearts, he wonders if this will really be fine. That night, at the outskirts of Ebelstein, in a nameless labyrinth, Pauline takes a step forward, unsure about this. Is it really okay to take Lady Alente into a labyrinth? Jaden shrugs, assuming Derek must have some sort of plan. Even Alente herself is confused. Is he asking her to go into a labyrinth? Like her? Derek notes that it's the lowest-ranked labyrinth nearby. There should not be anything difficult inside. Alente wasn't really talking about that. What is she supposed to do once they go in there? Besides, is it really okay to just go in like this? Derek explains that she must develop her instincts through real combat. He and his colleagues will be accompanying her just in case. Alente thinks that this is pretty serious stuff, but Derek tells her that the sparring match is only a few days away. When one is short on time, this is naturally the best method. They have an argument about that, and they go inside. With Alente a bit disgusted and peeved about this entire area, Derek tells her to stay alert. It's a low-rank labyrinth, but she must still be careful. Naturally, she is still worried and follows in his wake. Suddenly, Pauline notices something, as there are several goblins ahead. Derek has heard them too, and Jaden also knows that there's a big one behind them. An ogre, perhaps? Derek knows that he can handle one ogre at this point, and Jaden laughs, noting that it depends on how much he is getting paid. Derek tells him that they will calculate after they are done here. Sure enough, a bunch of red eyes appear in front of them, with screeches and snarls. Alente freezes, shaking a bit, as these are real monsters. The goblins charge in at the group, and Alente is completely stuck, but Derek and Pauline move in. Derek himself rushes in, and Pauline covers him from behind with her bow and arrow, allowing him to unleash devastating attacks against the goblins. One slash here, another fireball there, and so on. Pauline keeps covering him, but Alente is almost passing out from fear. Behind her, she hears an extremely large thud, and she turns around to see a gigantic ogre. Jaden, however, isn't fazed at all, and wonders how much he is worth. Before the ogre can strike, he cuts up his hand, ending the fight. Hearing and seeing so much death around her, Alente realizes that these monsters are trying to kill her. She could actually die. This cannot be real. Derek screams at her to snap out of it. One monster is heading towards her, so she should remain focused. Sure enough, a goblin with a small club is coming her way, and Alente can only think that she is going to die. Derek screams at her again that she must kill it, seeing his eyes full of trust. Alente also remembers that she admitted to feeling inferior. Instead of a goblin charging at her, she sees herself. She was arrogant, and she's built nothing on her own. All she could ever do was envy and tear others down. She crafts a magic arrow, moving despite herself, because she has come here to kill that part of herself and become even stronger. As the goblin charges in, she unleashes the magic arrow, killing it on the spot. The others look at this spectacle with a clinical eye, and the goblin lands helplessly on the ground with a thud. Alente is still shaking. Her breath is still ragged, but Derek gives her a nod of approval. She took a step. Finally, she took a step forward. 2 weeks pass with them continuing these raids in the labyrinth, and when he has time, Derek always pulls out a letter from his old teacher. It has been over 2 years since she left Ebelstein. She apologizes for contacting him so late. These days, she is teaching magic to the young lady of Ebelstein County. Since she has such a passion for learning, there is much for her to teach her, and she has been overwhelmed. She's been looking back on the days when she was teaching him magic while walking through Ebelstein. They were difficult, but so much freer and enjoyable. Of all the mages she has encountered in her lifetime, he was the most talented one. She wonders what level he has reached now. When they meet again someday, he should be sure to show her his new magic. From his former teacher, Katja Flamhart, Alente notices that he always reads that note when they sit down. So can she ask what it is? Derek tells her it's just a letter from his old teacher. Alente smirks, noting that she must be quite an excellent teacher. Considering she had the character to teach someone like him, Derek just kind of plainly stares at her, and notes that she's an excellent teacher actually. Alente just stares at him a bit too, as she was trying to tease him, but it doesn't really matter. Derek tells her to stop playing around and focus. There are 2 days left until the duel. How is she feeling about it? Alente can't really put it into words, and she is not sure either. However, she will win. 2 days pass, and a lot of young ladies gather in the Noble District Magic Sparring Arena, with Azeline too. As she chats with a few of her friends, she spots Derek and excuses herself. She goes up to him and notes that it's really good to see him, with Derek also bowing his head down. Iseline heard that he is helping Alente with her magic, and Derek confirmed as such, saying he is working with her house right now. Pretty awkward silence passes between them, and Iseline notes that he is the same as ever. Surely he has not been too harsh on Alente, right? Diella mentioned that he was not an ordinary teacher, and lately, Alente has been looking quite tired too. Derek is a little peeved about this. She is concerned about her opponent. She seems rather confident, huh? No matter who her opponent is, however, she should not be careless. As they all prepare to see the match, Denise hears some gossip behind her. Obviously, everyone thinks Iseline will win, unless Alente uses 2-star magic or something. They also gossip about her losing weight to the point where her face is half the usual size, which is not nearly true, but that's how some of those women are. Isoline goes to the podium, bowing down, and seeming more graceful than ever. Elente begins to walk onto the podium as well, hyping herself up to win, as she will definitely be winning. Derek watches from behind her. After they meet face to face, Isoline bows her head lightly, now hoping that she has been well all this time. Elente does the same, hoping that she has been well as well. Her composure at all times sets an example for her. Isoline denies it. She is not nearly as composed as before. She has never felt as nervous before a duel as she does now. Elente smiles gently, and notes that they should begin right now. They both begin activating their magics, a contrast between a calm blue and a fiery orange. Elente immediately begins chanting a gigantic spell, with hundreds of fire arrows appearing in the sky, and she is controlling all of them. Back when they were raiding the labyrinth, Derek said something to her. If it's purely a contest of magic skill, she absolutely cannot win, so she will use something else. Willpower. She has trained with him on how to scrape together mana to her absolute limit. Elente thought this was just his hobby, but Derek denies it. Once both sides' mana runs dry, the match is decided by willpower, rather than skill. She will use her magic as lavishly and grandly as possible, and drag it into a war of attrition by any means. Once that war ends, whoever can squeeze out one last drop wins. Elente asks, "What if Isoline's mana amount is greater than mine?" Derek tells her that in that case, she will lose. Mana amount is largely determined at birth. She carries the blood of Belimard, so she should believe in herself, and in her name. Isoline is surprised. Elente is this strong already? Elente herself doesn't even flinch, and unleashes the arrows toward Isoline, who, even if she is surprised, summons a sturdy shield around herself. She will be the one who will win. As the blast of the clashing magics ensues, a large dust cloud permeates the arena, with the ladies around watching, surprised to see Elente's magic. Her mana reserves seem to have increased tremendously since the last time they saw her fight. Isoline herself is not that surprised. While her firepower is incredible, she is just blasting it out endlessly. At this rate, her mana will be depleted in no time. Her eye catches something. Elente, running through the dust cloud. Now it's her turn to attack. Isoline unleashes a precise arrow toward Elente, but this seemed to be just illusion magic, as the arrow goes straight through. Moving illusions like that would consume an enormous amount of mana. Elente doesn't care, as she is right behind Isoline, ready to unleash a devastating arrow. She got this idea from Derek, who told her to overwhelm Isoline's field of vision with flame arrows, then use illusions to deceive her. She should then get in close, and shoot ice spears from a close distance. Even a skilled mage would show an opening and fall. Her opponent is not just any skilled mage. Isoline, sure enough, is not that flustered. Ice spears at this range would not work, and there is no time to deploy protective magic. If that is the case, she has to do something else. She begins pouring mana into a ball of magic, and Elente takes this as an opportunity to strike. Isoline, however, finishes pouring mana into the ball, and then uses it to propel herself backward, making Elente miss, and getting them back to square one. Elente herself is shocked, as she did not expect to see something like this. Isoline, though, thinks that was close. Now she understands why Derek said that she shouldn't let her guard down. In terms of skill level and her way of applying magic, everything about Elente changed. She will also push forward with firepower. She is confident in such an exchange. She summons a bunch of ice spears out of the ground without even a word of incantation, surprising the ones watching. Derek himself, however, is not impressed. It appears she took the bait. Isoline admits that Elente's growth is remarkable, but Elente herself is not worried at all. She simply swishes a finger behind her, and from the sun's view comes a flaming arrow. Isoline can't even hope to see it, and wonders if Elente can block something like this too. Using her magic strategically, Elente unleashes the fire arrow right through her ice spears, and they begin breaking off one by one until she is left with nothing. Isoline is shocked by this. Since when did she unleash a flame arrow? She couldn't sense either the spell incantation or the flow of mana. Perhaps it was from back then. Did she hide one arrow at that time? Was she even prepared for a moment like this? Elente, in a show of jest, lets the fire arrow fall right next to Isoline, smirking confidently. Isoline herself knows that she cannot read her. She has no idea what kind of move she'll use next. The other young ladies are impressed too, with Denise also agreeing this time. Elente herself thinks that now this is pretty doable. She is overpowering Isoline right now, isn't she? Isoline catches herself, as she cannot win under these conditions. With tactics and boldness, Elente is a step ahead. She calms down her breathing, as if to reset the conditions from the very beginning. Derek was waiting for this, as this is where the match truly starts. Isoline lets out the air from her lungs, and she begins channeling incredible power throughout the entire arena. Elente wonders what this is all of a sudden, as it feels like mana, but then she can no longer feel any surrounding mana. Derek saw it. It was only for a brief moment, but the surrounding mana vanished. Mana alignment is a phenomenon where the overwhelming mana momentarily controls the surrounding mana. When a single mage exerts mana beyond their limit, the mana in the vicinity undergoes alignment. In short, Isoline has now exceeded her own limits in just a moment, allowing her to cast a gigantic 2-star fireball. One night, as Elente was resting from a trip to the labyrinth, Derek came over and offered her some water, as she should really be replenishing her fluids. As she accepted the water, she noted that she really is unsure. Can she truly beat Azaline? Can she win just a week or a few weeks after training? Derek told her that she would win. To be more precise, she would win in a certain sense. The crowd watches with gasps and awe as Isoline summons a 2-star fireball. Elente is shocked too. This was not the situation they were expecting. She looks over at Derek, wondering what she should do, but he just nonchalantly stares at her, making her even more confused. He should stop making such a stupid face and tell her something useful, but she does not have time to react. The fireball begins flying toward her. Protective magic is out of the question. She cannot block a 2-star spell, and ice spears won't work either. She knows it after all. It's impossible to beat Azaline, someone like her. In a show of unrelenting stubbornness, she does something completely unexpected. Using the same technique Azaline used to get out of the fireball's way, it still hits the area pretty roughly, and sends her flying and skidding on the ground. But she is fine. Azaline is shocked as she breathlessly reprimands her harshly for the amount of mana she just used. She dodged something like that, and she used that exact method, which she had only seen once. Derek looks at Isoline and sees her lack of experience. A 2-star magician who is inexperienced is nothing but a monster that devours mana. Isoline recognized Elente's efforts and talent, and she is now going all out. That's her way of showing courtesy and respect to someone who works so hard against someone like her. Elente now understands what Derek was thinking. If she can endure something like this, then she will win. Isoline summons another fireball, this one much smaller since she doesn't have that much mana, and throws it at Elente. Even if it's smaller, the crowd recognizes that it's much faster than before. Elente rushes around it, dodging it like that, but Isoline forces herself to redirect the fireball right in Elente's way. She is not completely helpless. She puts all of her force in her hands and jumps up, making the fireball miss completely. The sun behind her cascades, not allowing Isoline to see what she is doing fully, but it's pretty clear that she is summoning an ice spear. If she can do this, Isoline won't be able to read her attack trajectory. Using a protective shield barrier will just waste more mana. So what will she do now against the spear of ice? Isoline puts her hands to the ground too, and summons a simple magic manifestation, an ice shield. Elente knows she used up all her mana casting fireball twice, and controlling them too. It's pretty clear to everyone that Isoline is completely spent. Derek thinks that it's almost over. Elente herself thinks that it worked. She has cornered Isoline, and there is no way she has any mana left. With her mana, she can still cast Magic Arrow or Ice Spear at least 2 or 3 more times. That should be enough. She has definitely defeated Isoline this time. Isoline somehow unleashes another fireball, but this one is not a real ball. It's more of a sphere, and because of the knockback she has incurred, she isn't able to control it, and it just flies helplessly in the air. Elente reacts with nothing. Surprisingly, her face completely placid. Isoline begins to shake, thinking that she just needs to do it one more time. If she can do it one more time, then she can definitely win. She herself can see that the sparks of mana she has left are nowhere near enough. Elente just looks down at her for the first time in forever. Isoline Eleanor Duplain. Most can say for certain that there is no noble lady in the whole of Ebelstein as noble as she. Where there is light, there is bound to be a shadow cast by that light. And that shadow was where Elente always stood. She used to throw gossip at her, thinking that she was just a pampered noble lady. Everyone was whispering behind her back like this. So what makes her think that she is any different? She knew that she would turn around and throw a pathetic, frantic tantrum that would prove her so. However, Isoline never did. She just smiled. She is a gem that shines brighter the more one tries to cut it down. Elente realized that she was cast down, obscured by that very light, into an abyss of inferiority. Even in there, she sharpened her blade, her tongue, so that someday she would truly become a better person than her, and prove to herself that she would escape from this endlessly hollow abyss that resides in her chest. That's why Elente is now completely stuck. The noble and beautiful Azaline, with disheveled hair and covered in dust, even after rolling on the ground helplessly in front of all of these people watching them. How can she make such a face? Well, it seems that she does not have an image of herself that she must protect. She always did her best at what she did without even trying. Even now, the crowds cheer for her, screaming that she can do it. Elente prepares a fire arrow and looks at Derek. Can she really beat Isoline? He knew that she would win. He told her so, but now she understands. This is it. Even if she wins this fight, in the very end, she would still be stuck here, in her endless abyss of inferiority. As Iseline tries to recover her mana, Elente lets out a placating and very fake sigh, noting that it seems that she has run out of mana too. As expected, she is no match for Iseline. She bows her head, admitting defeat. It was a great sparring session. Everyone from the crowd cheers for Iseline, thinking that she is cool, and Elente smiles at Iseline, a smile that does not quite reach her eyes. Naturally, the young ladies gather around Iseline, congratulating her for winning the spar, and for doing 2-star magic. But her gaze is on Elente, who immediately goes to Derek and asks if he saw it clearly. Was he surprised? She is someone who knows how to admit defeat too. He should have seen Iseline's face when he did it. She did it. Derek asks how it was, and Elente knows that her eyes got really wide. Her face couldn't have expressed her surprise any more clearly. Even the always composed Aisline can make a face like that. It was such a sight. She got to see something like that thanks to him. She even got to feel this sense of superiority over Aisline. She felt great today. The ending was a bit of a shame, but it wasn't bad, right? She is a pretty fast learner, so he shouldn't try to find fault for no reason. However, she stops her placating rant as tears begin streaming down her face, Derek seemingly staring right through her. Elente can't stop the stream now, and she crouches down, holding her legs up to her chest. She wonders what this is, as she is no child anymore. Derek sighs. She did flawlessly. She did extremely well. Elente covers her face and notes that, if she is honest, she wanted to win, but he knows that, as she was about to put an end to it, she saw something. Even if she were to win, she'd still be in that same place. She'll just always go back to that miserable place again and again. She realizes now that's just kind of the person she is. Even in the midst of all that, Aiseline looked really noble. Well, it seems that she is superior to Aiseline in one thing, her inferiority complex. Derek tells her that he's not any different either, so why does it matter if she looks pathetic? If she does not have the courage to look so pathetic, then she cannot get any stronger. This makes Elente see Derek in a different light. She is still far away from Aiseline, but at least she did not get stuck in her pit of inferiority today. After the ladies depart from Aiseline, congratulating her one last time, Denise approaches too, noting that she has achieved another accomplishment. She felt goosebumps all over herself the whole time watching it. Aiseline, however, knows she did not win this sparring match. Denise naturally knows, as is evident by her smile. In terms of magical capacity, she thinks she is far superior. Aiseline does not think so. Even though she could not entirely offset that difference in capacity, Lady Elente was ahead of her in every way. To be able to advance that much in such a short time, she knows the reason. She calls over her maid and tells her to send a letter to the main house, as she needs Derek. In his estate, Duplan hears about Dresd's wolf tale. He is wondering what a 6-star travel pass is doing in Ebelstein. Valerian tells him that the reasons are unknown, but it seems the customs agreement was moved up earlier, likely in response to Sir Dresd's movements. Duplan understands, but he wonders why the Count of Bellemard was coming to Ebelstein of all places. But it seems that it has something to do with Dresd. If it's someone at the pinnacle of searching arts, one who possesses foresight, there must be a reason. Valerian also notes that a letter arrived from Aiseline. They sent a request to find a magic teacher. Duplan wonders why he can't just find one for her, but Valerian explains that the thing is, she specifically asks for Derek, and there is a bit of a problem. Derek is currently at the Bellemard estate teaching magic to Elente. He is thinking of sending over a butler to actively lead the negotiations. Duplan says that there is no need. He has to go to Ebelstein because of the Dresd matter anyhow, so he will handle it while he is there. As they rest after the bout, Elente tells Derek that she will be resting a while from studies or whatever. She just needs a break to clear her head. Is he going to keep working for the Beldung Mercenary Corps? Derek confirms as such. Elente puts her foot on his under the table, leaning closer. He will come again if she calls for him, right? To teach her magic. Derek looks at her, and then agrees he is not sure if there is anything left for him to teach, however. Elente notes that this is some uncharacteristic humility coming from him, but she is glad that the winter season is finally coming to an end. It was a long winter, wasn't it? One night, Derek returns to the mercenary corps. The next day, Tristan makes his way to Ebelstein in the late morning. Elente is still resting, and someone knocks at the door. She immediately covers her head with her pillow, as she specifically told the maid that she was resting, so no lessons today. The maid tells her it's not that, and it would be wise to come and see for herself. Elente gets out of bed, pretty annoyed, as she gave out her orders. But then, as she opens the door, she sees her father, who knows that it's been a long time since he saw his pride, his jewel, and his treasure. Elente immediately closes the door in front of him. She wonders why he is here in the first place. She opens the door again with a sheepish smile and asks, what brings him all the way here? She will just change her clothes and come out, so he should wait a moment, and she then slams the door in front of him once again as he is speaking. After they get out, they go elsewhere to talk. Tristan notes that Aiseline certainly wouldn't have been an easy opponent. Elente confirms as such, but she learned a lot from her. Tristan understands that if that mercenary fellow teaches that well, perhaps it would be best to keep him exclusively at Bellimard. Elente doesn't know about that, as the others will be opposed, but Tristan tells her not to worry. Is there anything he would not do for her? She should just trust him. Derek continues his conquest of the labyrinth with the others, taking out goblin after goblin, but suddenly, Derek feels something different about his mana, and he attempts to unleash a 3-star fireball, which lights up the entire area and shakes the mountain range with thunder. That evening, after they return to the company, Pauline tells Jaden that Derek almost died, and she is extremely annoyed by it. Just why are all mages like this? Why try using a 3-star spell while hunting goblins out of all things? Derek explains that he felt a strange sense of incongruity in the middle of it, just like when he reached 2-star, so he attempted it. Suddenly, someone speaks from behind, telling him that there is no need to be anxious about being stuck. There is no need to force his way through. Didn't the School of the Wild originally pursue a natural flow of things? Naturally, such advice doesn't work on mages like him. At this point, Derek certainly couldn't even feel a trace of mana from this man, but the person standing before his eyes is definitely the first and greatest 6-star search-type mage, Dresd Wolftail, the Wandering Spirit. He tells them that if they have any decent alcohol, they should bring some out as the fatigue from his travels has piled up. Meanwhile, Yahello continues training on her own. She summons an ice spear, then another, then 2 more, but they eventually begin to get wobbly and break. She sinks to her knees a bit. This really is extremely grating. Suddenly Reg appears. He thought that she had grown up a bit, but it seems her temper is exactly the same. Still, she succeeded in drawing out 5 ice spears. Is it thanks to that good teacher of hers? Yahello scoffs, and knows that it's because she's good. What does that selfish Derek have to do with it? Reg notes that it seems Azeline is planning to hire said selfish fellow as her magic teacher. Yahello is shocked. What if she gets treated the same way she did? Reg tells her not to say things that might be misunderstood. He heard at the ball recently that Elente also wants to keep employing Derek. It seems he turned a rascal like her into a human being, so no wonder it's popular. Yahello immediately wants to snap back and tell him that she's not a rascal, but she admits that she was one. Reg notes that perhaps it would be better if Derek chose Azeline. That way, they might be able to meet again somehow. The Derek she wants to see so much. Yahello immediately blushes and asks who said that she wanted to see him. That kind of selfish guy. Reg will take her very shaky word for it, but the rumors about Derek must have spread quite a bit by now. He hopes the number of competitors doesn't increase any further. Derek looks at Dresd as he takes a swig of his wine, wondering why a mage of this stature is in a place like this. Dresd turns his head to him as he finishes and asks if his name is Derek, which he confirms as such. Surprised that he knows about him, Dresd notes that, if it's not much trouble, they could talk for a moment, just the 2 of them, and seeing nothing wrong with it, Derek agrees. They go outside, where the streets are empty, and as they walk, Dresd explains that his magic talent is far too ambiguous even for him. He is sure it's something he has never heard before, since his skills are pretty outstanding. So why is he working so hard? What does he hope to achieve in learning magic? Derek tells him how it is. He does not have any grand ambitions or something like that. He just feels that since he's grasped even a thread of talent, he's simply curious to see how far and wide he can go. Dresd seems to like this answer, as a small smile plays on his lips, and tells him that, as a commoner, if he dreams of reaching a higher realm than he is at now, he is lacking a bit as he is. Would it be alright if he helped him? Derek is a little confused about this proposal, and thinks about Dresd. He was born a commoner, and he had already reached 2-star by the time he became an adult. By the time he started a family, he had reached 3-star. The commoner-born mage became a spiritual pillar for others. To the commoners around him, his village became an ivory tower for commoner mages. Yet the very same year that he became a 4-star, on a dreadfully rainy night, he lost his family as they had been murdered. This was done by a noble, a count to be exact. His butler told him that Dresd had gone into hiding, and that those arrogant commoner mages had quieted down too. The nobles found those vulgar things getting scared and tucking their tails so easily. So why would commoners be so greedy for magic in the first place? Before he could say more, the head of his butler was cut off by Dresd, with a single swing of his fingers. The count tried to charge at him, but Dresd simply cut both of his legs off, causing him to fall down in a worthless lump. He began crawling away, begging to be spared, but there was no mercy in Dresd's soul anymore as he cut off the count's tongue and tortured him for hours. After that, for 30 long years, he lived on the run from the imperial family and even the nobility. However, when Dresd surpassed the 5-star realm and became a 6-star mage, the imperial family finally realized something. If they kept him an enemy, the kingdom would be in danger. So the imperial family acknowledged that Dresd's revenge was pretty justified and protected their own authority by granting him a title. Thus, Dresd became a man who received the noble title solely through prowess, and he can be taught by such a man. Naturally, there is no reason to refuse. Inside of the Edelstein Noble District, Clyon Hehal Central Conference Room, a meeting seems to take place. Someone tells Duplain that if he plans to expand north of the Belkos Peninsula, he should be careful of the rebels in the White Zone. If necessary, he can dispatch his knights to assist him. This is the Grand Duke Veltus, Andalov Kalok Veltus. Duplain looks at the papers and asks, the knights he speaks of, could they be those lowly mercenaries? Veltus naturally gets annoyed and projects an aura of animosity, noting that it must be rather difficult for him to manage such a vast territory with only private soldiers. Giving it up is an option too, and Duplain also gets mad. Tristan tries to calm the situation down between the two of them, noting that the meeting is almost wrapped up anyway. Since they've come all this way to Edelstein, why don't they go see their children's faces right now? Duplain is distracted, and notes that, come to think of it, he heard his daughter Elente fought on par with his Iseline. Tristan confirms this, though she unfortunately lost. It seems that Elente is finally letting her talent bloom. With a bit more training from a good instructor, she will be able to surpass Iseline. Duplain flinches a bit at these words and agrees about the instructor. He means Derek, doesn't he? On the contrary, if he were to become Iseline's instructor, Elente would never be able to surpass Iseline. Naturally, Tristan gets annoyed and laughs a bit shakily. He wonders if such a thing would ever happen, since his bond with Elente is quite deep. Duplain tells him that he is not the type to be moved by personal ties. It seems he has not grasped his character at all. Veltus stands a little confused, wondering who this Derek is, that these two are so desperate to get him. Maybe he should tell Denise to look into him as well. After a while, at Bealden's Terre, Tristan makes his way there, and asks the commander if he is the commander. After giving him some refreshments, Tristan sits down and notes that, since there was no reply to the letter his head butler sent personally, he has come in person. Jaden is a bit sorry about this. The thing is though, Derek has been missing for a few good days. They have been asking around and searching for him as well, but a few days ago, he said he was refusing all requests, and then just vanished. Tristan is confused. Has Duplain already snatched him up, perhaps? Or Veltus? No, there was no such information from his informants. It seems that he will have to find him personally. In the outskirts of Edelstein at the Veltus residence, Denise begins reading a letter and asks when it arrived. The maid says that it arrived early this morning. They say the patriarch sent it with great urgency. The letter basically tells her to hurry up and find a man named Derek and take him in as an instructor. Denise knows why he is in a hurry, because that mercenary's value is at its lowest right now, and it will naturally grow. However, this is annoying, as today is a very important day. Today is the day she has been waiting for so long, the day the new book by the great author Rayleigh from One Piece, The Lady Submits to the Duke's Cold Grand Duke's Ice Greatsword, has finally been released. She's been dying to know what this Ice Greatsword is, but it's pretty clear. Well, what can she do about it if she doesn't listen? Now he will just nag at her more later, so she tells her assistant, Bella, to prepare her clothes as she is heading out. She has someone to find after all. Drest and Derek are in a literal hole in the mountain, which seems like a prime chilling spot. As they meditate, Drest tells Derek to close his eyes and release his mana in a fine mist, then feel the mana as it touches objects, and then bounces back. Derek begins doing just that, and he begins to see without his eyes. Drest tells him that what he is doing now is the basics of search-type magic. At 1 star, it's simple threat detection. From 2 star, he can track locations and detect magic. At 3 star, he can see through disguises. At 4 star, he can see through an entire opponent. At 5 star, he can read minds and communicate with the dead. At 6 star, he will gain the ability to see the future. Derek is confused. Actually, see the future? Drest confirms as such. He saw the future and came to find him because he needs him. Derek is now wondering what exactly is going to happen to him. Drest notes that he knows of a man named Valerian, right? He is the eldest son of House Duplain. Before he reaches adulthood, he will dabble in necromancy. That is why he must be killed. Derek stays silent for a moment and asks why he would dabble in necromancy. What exactly is he planning? Drest apologizes, but he cannot tell him any details. That is how the future works. If one learns everything recklessly, the days ahead will become even more unpredictable and change in pretty complex ways. If there is one more thing that he can tell him, it is that he is destined to die. Derek, however, doesn't seem to be very surprised by this, but this is because he said he was destined to die, not definitely die. Drest smiles and agrees. He does not wish for his death either. He must not die, so he will make it so that he doesn't. To survive, he will have to become strong. He channels a bit of mana into his hand and says that he has to become overwhelmingly strong. With that mana channeled into the sky, he clears the clouds and lets the moon shine through a small hole in the clouds. That same morning, Denise read the letter. She gets into the city and comes out of her carriage with everyone staring at her. She tells the carriage driver that she is going to walk from here so he can stay and rest. As they walk, Denise asks Bella why everyone is staring at her. Is it perhaps because she is so pretty? Bella just gives her a long side eye and tells her that her room is always messy. She barely washes, and she lies around in a heap of books. She is basically a neat. so her usual self is quite a sight too, but she thinks she's even worse when she's like this. Denise notes that she's so good at joking, but Bella was not joking at all. Anyway, shouldn't they hurry a bit? If another house takes that man named Derek, her father will be displeased. Denise tells her not to be worried. No matter how slow she is still faster than the others. Bella tells her that she's always late preparing for lessons, and Denise immediately changes the subject. Derek rejected all the requests and went into hiding, right? He is not someone who hates money. So why is that? Does something more important than money appear? For someone who handles that level of magic at such a young age, if it's something of greater importance than money, it is definitely magic. He either found some sort of great grimoire or a teacher. If that is the case, he would not have the time for mercenary work. So of course, he would reject requests. But that mercenary left the Duplain mansion on his own accord, did he not? There's no better place to train magic than there, meaning he's found something even better than the Duplain mansion. Before she can wonder who it could really be, they go to Bealden's Tear, where Jaden welcomes them. He's surprised to see that now even a young lady is coming here personally. He immediately tells her that they don't know where Derek is either. 3 teams have already come and gone this morning, so there is nothing more he can tell them. Denise, however, wonders. Drest was here too, right? That old mage. Jaden sheepishly asks what, and that's all the confirmation Denise needed. They should go, as she needs to check the carriage transit records. They go to the Coachman Guild in the commercial district, and as they read the records, Bella wonders how she knew that Drest had visited. Denise notes that it was pretty obvious that the mercenary left a 5-star mage on his own accord. He is serious about magic, yet he abandoned a 5-star, meaning that one would need to bring a 6-star to pique his interest, right? She also happens to know that a 6-star mage was coming to Edelstein, and it was a shot in the dark that old man fell for beautifully. Could it be that she really is smart? Bella gives her a side eye again, and notes that she never uses her brain, so she is not really sure. Denise tells her that she is being awfully witty today, and notes that she is rather exhausted from being so capable. She wants to be incompetent too. Bella wonders if she enjoys her talking back to her, and Denise wonders why she always sees her pretty side. Bella lets it go like this, and notes that even if they find him first, will they be able to recruit him? She heard even the great Duplain and Bellamard are after him. Denise notes that this is basically the easiest part, as she has a plan, and that plan is a honey trap. He's a hot-blooded young man, isn't he? And rejecting such a beauty would be impossible for him. Bella narrows her eyes as she stares at Denise, and tells her that her competition is Lady Osline. Denise wonders what she means by that. She is prettier, right? Bella is a little annoyed that this is the only thing she actually listened to, but whatever. It seemed that she found it. It was about a week ago. A boy in a robe with a travel pass went to the outskirts of Ram Hill near the Laspa Great Cave. Eventually, they arrived there, and Drest immediately recognizes their life force. He tells Derek that someone has come. They seem to be from House Veltus. They look like his guests, so he should go out. Sure enough, it's Denise and Bella, with Bella noting that she thinks it's better if they do not go further. Maybe they should report to the Patriarch and come back with soldiers. Denise refuses, as she wouldn't be able to take credit if she did that. Besides, what if they move the soldiers, and another house catches wind of it? That would be like doing all the work for someone else to take the credit. Suddenly though, Bella sees something in the dark, which seems like a monster to her. Denise immediately covers for her, and thinks that this place was supposed to be completely cleared. She is not confident in offensive magic, but she has to try, as she begins to chant. Then Derek comes out of the darkness and asks what brings her to this humble place. She is a bit surprised at first, but then a slow smile plays at her lips, and she thinks that it's time for her to make him hers. After confirming each other's identities, Denise does something truly blasphemous and shows her ankles, noting that it's a relief she came here because she really wanted to meet him. She wanted to have a conversation with him, even if just once. Derek just stares at her and notes that this is indeed a pleasant conversation. Bella can barely stifle her laugh, and Denise naturally gets annoyed, taking a step closer and pulling her dress up even further. She notes that she cannot tell him how many times she's met him in her dreams. She heard he's quite an elegant mage, and has an instructor too, so how should she put it? If she could be taught by someone like him, she'd be very, very happy. Derek immediately cuts through her bullshit and asks why she's speaking in such theatrics. Is she practicing for a play or something because of the cave echoes? Denise just stares at him while Bella barely fights back another laugh, and Denise understands the shy, beautiful girl act doesn't seem to work on him. As he turns around, she grabs his attention again, noting that she felt a lot after watching the duel between Iseline and Elente. As one of the Rosia trio, she felt like she was the one being left behind. She was anxious that she would eventually be left in the dust. If everyone else grows while she's staying in the same place, what would she do? She grabs Derek's hand and pleads with him to save her. Denise thinks that, since they are so close, he can probably feel her breath. His heart must be thumping right now, right? He wouldn't refuse. Derek, however, takes his hand out of hers, and notes that he is not so sure. From what he is seeing, she does not seem to have much interest in magic at all. Earlier, They mistook him for a monster, and she chanted an ice spear, right? It was extremely clumsy, to say the least. The flow of mana, the speed of the incantation, not a single thing was prepared. Her basic mana capacity is excellent, but it is not organized in the slightest. That just shows how little she usually practices magic, and Bella adamantly agrees behind her. With this, Derek leaves her with a piece of advice. At least, in front of someone who is serious about magic, she should not speak of sincerity with lies, as they would definitely take it as an insult. He does not know why she needs him, but it does not seem to be for magic, and he does not accept requests from people whose true purpose he doesn't know. Denise tells him to wait a moment and tries to clear things up, but Derek tells her to just find someone more capable than a lowly mercenary, who would be more fitting for her status. With that, he retreats back into the cave, leaving Denise with her thoughts. As the sun begins to descend, Denise makes camp near the cave, with Bella wondering if she's really going to be okay. Denise tells her that if she were to back down now, another house will definitely snatch him away, and she has to win him over as soon as possible. Bella understands, but she shouldn't push herself too far. Before she goes, though, Denise tells Bella that she knows Bella suffers because Denise is always selfish, but this is such an important favor. She really hopes she'll do it for her. When she comes by tomorrow, she should bring volume 4 of the Duke's Pillar of Ice Melts the Commoner Lady. Bella looks at her with an exasperated expression. The next day, as Derek continues meditating, Denise approaches Derek with a bunch of stuff, including food. He asks what this all is, and she says that it's nothing much. There is nothing she can do for him, so she will assist him so that he can focus on his magic. Derek tells her plainly that doing such a thing will not change anything, but she says it's fine. She feels like she is growing just by watching, so he shouldn't mind her. Denise notes that, if he is the least bit human, he will eventually feel fond of someone giving so much. He should like her as much as he wants, be grateful as much as he wants. In the end, she will be the one laughing. If that is the case, though, Derek accepts this gratefully, though he still will not be her teacher. Denise is surprised to see that he's rejecting her while eating right in her face. Just what kind of guy is this? The next day, she brings some food and magic crystals, and Derek thanks her, but he still won't become her teacher. She brings the actual head chef of the estate, who said he'd prepare a full meal for him, and Derek thanks her, but he still won't do it. The day after that, she brought a refined ore she thought might be useful. Derek thanks her again, but he still won't do it. The next day, Denise has had enough. That bastard is just a selfish exploiter. If she's being this nice, shouldn't he put up a little act? At least at that moment. Bella approaches and notes that they have a little problem. The head butler of House Duplain is coming this way. Denise notes that they should hide now and leave the tent here. Maybe they'll think it's Derek's or something. Sure enough, the head butler approaches with a bunch more maids and some guards as well. Denise is wondering if they're going to war or something. She follows them into the cave, where Derek seems to be reading something, and notes that to become Azeline's magic instructor would definitely be an honor, with Denise getting extremely annoyed after hearing something like this. The butler understands, and asks whether he would be ready to depart with them post-haste. Derek refuses, confusing Denise. He will only come after he finishes his training, though he is not sure when that will happen. The butler asks if he would reconsider if they increase the payment, but Derek apologizes. At his current level, he cannot be of much help to Azeline, and he does not wish to teach magic half-heartedly, making Denise stop and think about what she's been trying to do. Back at the Duplain residence, Azeline is informed about Derek's whereabouts. Yesterday evening, the head butler went to see him personally. Azeline notes that she should have been told, as she was going to ask him herself, but she must go now, so they should gather the swiftest soldiers. The maid notes that the terrain is pretty rough, but Azeline does not care, as this is about welcoming her new teacher, so she should go in person. As Denise and Bella wait outside, she sniffles a bit, and notes that they should head back tomorrow morning. Bella notes that she certainly gave up quickly because she is smart, quote-unquote. Denise gives her a side eye and notes that she actually thinks she's a fool, isn't she? Bella denies it. Of course not. What is she even saying? Denise tells her that she used to achieve anything once her stubbornness kicked in, but this time she doesn't even want to be stubborn anymore. She just feels drained. Bella tells her that the mercenary is not someone to be moved by a person's background or money. He seems to move based on a much more important value than that. Denise remembers his words about not wanting to teach magic half-heartedly, and remembers Elente's and Izeline's match. She wonders why everyone is so sincere all the damn time. Derek continues his training, but then stops as he hears someone arrive. It's Denise, who apologizes for interrupting his training, and asks if she can sit next to him. Derek just stays silent in response, and notices that her eyes look rather different today. Denise looks around with half-lidded eyes, and apologizes for being a nuisance all this time. She is going to stop. Derek thanks her for her kindness, and hopes that she will find a good teacher in time. Denise doesn't want that. She hates magic. It's all just politics and acting. She only tried to keep him on their side because he is famous, but he is way too proud for that. Since he will go to Azeline anyway, she should just step out, right? Derek asks why she hates magic, and she explains that she used to like it quite a bit in the past, but not really magic itself. She just liked being praised for it. Magic was just a means, and what she wanted in the end was praise. She studied hard while being called some kind of genius, though. One day, a thought suddenly occurred to her. Why was she doing this? What is she even doing? So she stopped. That's basically all. She got tired of even praise at one point. She is surprised that he was actually listening. She thought she'd be talking to herself by now. Before leaving, Derek tells her to have safe travels, and she pouts, noting that she's rather jealous as she gets up. She's jealous of someone like him who does not question the notion of hard work. He will become a great mage in the future, won't he? Well, if they ever meet again, he should at least say hello. The next morning, as Iseline arrives with a bunch of soldiers, Denise looks at her as they depart, and then returns to the Veltus mansion. However, upon getting there, she is informed that even Iseline was rejected. She guesses that it's because his training isn't over yet, which is different from a rejection. Bella tells her that they should stop worrying about this matter for now, and Denise confirms as such. He will have to live in a cave forever, and become a bear like that legend from the East, but Bella tells her it's the reverse. Denise pouts, wondering if he thinks he is the only one in the world capable of magic. Bella also tells her that a guest has arrived to have a meal with her. As they open the door, they see that it's not anyone but Derek who is eating at their table like it's nobody's business, confusing Denise quite a bit. Last night, Derek finally achieved what he wanted to achieve. The flow of mana was aligning, and with just a bit more pushing, he was able to compress the mana into one single point. With it, he was able to activate the magic he wanted, shaking the entire mountainside, but not shattering or breaking absolutely anything. Drest came around and told him that he would collapse at this rate. It would be a waste to die after finally learning such a thing, so it was time for him to leave this place. With this, Derek has acquired the 3-star tectonic shift magic. As they gathered at a fireplace and cooked some fish, Drest told him that there is nothing more he could teach him now. As he said previously, he will not survive with such mediocre talent. He should think for himself about how far he intends to climb. He gave him a fish and got up, Derek asking where he was going. Drest told him that he was going to take some fresh air for a while, but then stopped and told him one last bit of information, to beware of Kohela. With that, he went further into the forest, Derek knowing that he was leaving for good. Now at the Veltus mansion, Veltus is really pleased, thanks to Denise taking the lead. A precious magic instructor walked in on his own 2 feet. Denise thanks her father. She only did what she had to do, though. Veltus also notes that he must have a reason for rejecting Duplain's request, right? He wants to know, as he will assist however much he can. Derek knows what he means, and notes that he doesn't need anything other than the reward mentioned. He only accepts it because of Denise's attitude. Veltus agrees. Her attitude is indeed wonderful. What other lady on the continent could compare to her? Anyone in the world who sees Denise wouldn't be able to resist teaching her. Doesn't she remember that time when the maid broke the plate? The maid said that she had committed a grave sin and asked for forgiveness. Then she gave her an angelic smile. Before he can finish, Denise interrupts him and notes that she thinks they need to talk about the lessons right now, so she wants some time alone with her instructor. After he leaves, Denise just flat out asks Derek what he's doing here, and Derek notes that he is drinking tea, but Denise is not joking. Didn't he say that he wouldn't do it? Did they not have a clean break? Derek tells her that he was grateful for what happened in Laspa Great Cave. He received great help thanks to her. Denise, however, already told him that it was just a political approach to it. She said she had no intention of learning magic. Derek, however, explains that he did not feel good about it, without even properly knowing what magic is, because of that attitude of hers, of jumping to conclusions about whether it's good or bad. Denise stays silent for a moment and agrees it must be unpleasant for someone like him, but she dislikes what she dislikes. Derek, however, tells her that it's a damn pity, without knowing a single good thing about that brilliant magic, to think she would hold such disillusionment and apathy towards it. He will not tolerate something like this. Denise knows she fucked up. She shouldn't really have provoked this magic-obsessed bastard. At the Duplan residence, Iseline looks down at the ground, remembering when she met with Derek, who flat out told her that she had nothing to learn from him. Her foundation was already firmly set, and it seemed better for her to learn from an instructor of the same school of magic. That is why he could not teach her. She knew even then that he had already made a firm decision, and what he said definitely was not a compliment. The standard, she believed, was everything. She was simply not free at all. Suddenly, her maid interrupts her retrospective and notes that a letter has arrived from the main house. It seems that young Master Valerian's departure ceremony is next week. She did not expect it to be so early, since it's his first departure ceremony. She must prepare a good gift. She will go to the shopping district. The White Zone is dangerous after all, so he must be prepared. As soon as she leaves the room, the chair she was sitting on breaks, signaling that something is wrong. That night at Denise's mansion, she thinks that Derek is truly well out of his mind. He was glaring, with his eyes wide open, saying she doesn't know a thing about good magic. Magic is only good for him, so why does he force it on others? Bella wonders if Denise has realized that, because if she has, then she won't force Bella to read those vulgar novels anymore, right? Denise immediately gets up, noting that she doesn't know a single good thing about those beautiful and brilliant works. She will not tolerate something like this, and Bella notes that they are basically the same, she and Derek, in this aspect, as she does not find those novels interesting at all. Denise is just tired because if she brings someone as a teacher who solves Duplain's headache, gains Elente's recognition, and even kicks Azaleen away, the worst part is that, if she does not achieve anything even under such a teacher, she will look completely incompetent. She gets under her covers, wondering why she can't just fire him with her own authority. She just wants to live by lying down and reading novels all day. Bella tells her that if she does fire Derek, her allowance for those novels will definitely be cut off. With that, she takes her leave, and Denise twirls in her bed a bit before pouting, as the situation is seriously annoying. Thank you for watching. See you next time.